All right, we're live. Go ahead and start when you're ready.
Good evening. I'd like to call the Henrietta Town Board meeting for October 14th, 2020 to order. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Here.
Councilmember Stafford,
Here.
Councilmember Safranek, Councilmember Bolsner,
Here.
Supervisor Schultz.
Here. As always, we'll begin with a silent prayer followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the September 23rd, 2020 Town Board meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
And Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the October 2nd, 2020 Special Town Board meeting minutes.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Abstain.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Just as a note, if you're participating virtually and wish to speak during the meeting, if you're using the app, you can use your raise hand control, or if you are called in to Zoom, you can press *9. When it's your turn to speak, the meeting host will enable you to talk. If you're watching this on YouTube, Facebook, and wish to respond, please visit henrietta.org/wishyouwerehere for detailed instructions on how to connect on Zoom. For the deaf or hard of hearing, please use the Q&A feature in Zoom. For anyone else, please reserve the Q&A for the deaf and hard of hearing only. Thank you. So first up, we have a public presentation for, actually, I'm going to read the resolution. Fellow board members, I have resolution 21-244, 2020. Whereas on the night of September 28th, 2020, a softball player suddenly collapsed on the field and quickly lost consciousness. And whereas quickly assessing the situation, a nearby player, Katie Hannon, began administering cardiopulmonary resuscitation. And whereas through her CPR efforts, Katie was able to restore consciousness to the player who had collapsed, restoring oxygen to the brain in those critical moments before medical personnel could arrive and transport him to the hospital. Therefore, be it resolved that the town of Henrietta thanks Katie Hannon of Honeoye Falls for her quick thinking and heroic actions in saving the life of a fellow softball player. Be it further resolved that the town of Henrietta and CHS Mobile Integrated Healthcare proudly recognize Katie Hannon for those actions through this proclamation and through the CHS Citizen CPR Award, acknowledging an integral link in the chain of survival. Could you go ahead and sign that? So we'll have two presentations. First, the certificate from the town, and then CHS Mobile is going to come up as well. Thank you very much. Congratulations. Very much appreciated.
My name is Eric Thomas, and I'm the Deputy Chief over at CHS. I wanted to highlight this effort from Katie Hannon. On the evening of September 28th, 2020, a 65-year-old male collapsed while playing softball. And due to the quick actions of the citizens involved on the softball field and the quick actions of our team, we had a positive outcome in this case. And this is a terrific case that highlights the American Heart Association's chain of survival. And as part of the chain of survival, it includes early activation of the 911 system, early bystander CPR, early EMS response, and activation of an advanced life support system, which took our crew about three minutes to get there, just from the time of initial dispatch. And then the latter half of the chain of survival includes having access to post-arrest care. So it's really not just us or not just the community that can make a difference and provide for good patient outcomes. It's the whole continuum of care. So this is a fantastic case and example of why it's important to learn CPR and be trained, because you are part of our team as we provide great care to the community. So thank you to Katie, and thank you for coming and learning CPR with us. And we're really proud of your efforts and proud of the efforts of our team. Thank you.
Did anyone else wish to speak? Katie, do you wish to say a few words or?
Sure. Okay.
Yep.
So my husband was also there. He was the one that called 911. So it was a team effort. There were many people that were there at the game willing to help. I just happened to be the one that stepped up. I do have I have certification, first aid, CPR. So was willing to help out, and I'm glad it worked out.
Thank you again very much.
Thanks, Cody.
I'd like to note just one more thing. We do offer free CPR training to Henrietta Town residents over at CHS Mobile Integrated Healthcare. So if you just visit our website, the details, you can sign up there. It's free if you're a town resident. So come on out, learn with us, and help be a part of our team for good patient outcomes. So thank you very much for having us and for this recognition. We appreciate it.
Thank you. We have a gentleman in the back.
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Pat. I'm the 65-year-old softball player that had the emergency that night. As you can see, it was a good outcome. And I have a lot of gratitude to Katie and to the CHS group. So I thank you very much. I still plan on playing ball next year, so hopefully we won't have any more emergencies, but thank you. And CPR is something that a lot of us have talked about that we need to do, and not being a resident of Henrietta necessarily, I hope that we're going to be able to work something out that we can get a lot more people out there that know CPR and can hopefully use it in any other situation that may occur. But thank you for the recognition of Katie. I think she deserves it, as well as CHS deserves it. And there were a few other people out there, but I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you again very much. And that concludes the public presentation. We're going to move on to public hearings. If you want to escape before we get into the public hearings, now's your chance. Thank you. Take
Thank
care.
you.
That was probably one of the best ones we ever.
I agree.
We signed up. I signed up about 2 months ago.
Thank you.
Thank you, Reg.
Thank you.
Take care. So,
Did we get a second on that?
oh yeah, that's a good point. It's technically a resolution. We probably should have voted on it. I always forget that part. Why don't we do that?
You second. It was your second.
I second Resolution 244.
Hearing no objections, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolzner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. One of these years, I'll remember to call for the roll after a presentation, but when you get off and you start shaking the hands and handing certificates, it totally changes the whole process. Okay, the first public hearing continuation is going to be the public hearing for 1140 Martin Road for the endangering tree. To give an update on that, we did get a quote for the removal of the tree. Yeah, thank you, Craig. There's a large noise coming from the hallway, so we're closing the door. Okay, thank you. So again, for 1140 Martin Road endangering tree, we did get a quote for the removal of the tree. I then sent a letter out to each of the 3 property owners because the tree is located where 3 properties meet, with the proposal that they split the cost evenly. It's a small cost when split 3 ways. The original property owners of 1140 offered to just have the tree in their wooded lots, the cut down tree in their wooded lot, to save money on removal of the tree. So I'm waiting to hear back from them because of budget and union contract negotiations and everything else. It took a little while to get the letter out, but it has been sent. My proposal is going to be that we close this public hearing because I look at, there's one of 2 outcomes. Either all 3 of them agree to split the cost and therefore the tree is taken care of, or they will not agree, in which case we will have to hire a surveyor to determine which property it's on, which will start a new endangering tree action, in which case there will be a new public hearing. So either way, as far as I'm concerned, unless somebody has an objection, we should close this public hearing. Anybody disagree with that? And hearing no objections, we're.
Steve, I do have Linda and Lindsay on. I don't know if they wanted to say something or if they were just here to
Okay.
hear about it. Lindsay, did you have anything you wanted to say at all before the public hearings closed?
Can't hear him.
They're muted if they're talking.
He is talking.
Okay, sorry, I didn't know I had to punch a button here. We think that's a very reasonable approach to take until we hear back from the owners. We'll just have to wait and see which of those 2 courses of action we need to take. So I'm good with that. I guess we pick this back up as soon as we hear back. Is that correct?
Yeah, so again, if it basically, if all the parties agree, then we will just bring the tree removal people out there, or you can do it. I don't care which one. It might be easier if the town did it. And then we would just send a bill to the 3 residents. If we hear back and it's a negative, I will inform all the participants. And again, we will then hire the surveyor. You know, the risk, of course, one of the things I pointed out in the letter is that there's the cost of removal goes up if we have to figure out whose property is on. So it actually, I think it comes out to $150 a property owner to get rid of the endangering tree.
That's correct. And I guess there's an 8% sales tax as well. It's added on to that. So it'll probably go up to $162, but that's certainly a very reasonable cost. I will tell you that I personally have not received that letter yet. I know I've orally said I agreed to that in the previous meeting, but if you need my written agreement, please have one of your people send me the letter and I'll get back to you in whatever way the letter instructs.
The letter went out at the beginning of this week, so knowing the current state of the post office, it does not surprise me you have not received it yet.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure you did send it along to me. All right. Well, I will await the letter and respond accordingly.
If the town is the one that hires the company, there will be no sales tax, so we can save you guys each $12.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so hearing no objections, I will close the public hearing for the 1140 Martin Road endangering tree, as well as the resulting action to which that is connected, because again, a new action would be started depending on the results of the proposal.
I second that motion.
So, hearing no objection, public hearing is closed. Gavel's for you, Rob.
Thanks. I always like the gavel.
Next up, we have Riverton Parcel E, Park Grove Realty, special permit 2020-023 to construct a proposed plus or minus 120 unit multifamily community. For this particular public hearing, I'm going to share a few updates, but we are still waiting to hear back on the seeker. Feedback from two of the involved parties, the New York State Department of Transportation, I don't know if they're involved or interested parties, but New York State Department of Transportation and the Monroe County Department of Transportation. So Becky, could you bring up the updated Riverton GIS map? So this was prepared by Passero. I reviewed it and had to make a couple corrections. What you're looking at is it's a map of all the Riverton plan unit development, and it's coded with geographic information basically into parklands, which are the brighter green. Individual properties, homes are in the yellow. That also includes the parcels in parcel A near the golf course that are not currently developed, but the developer is working on turning those into homes. And then there are basically three types of apartment complexes, or excuse me, three types of multi-dwelling. There are townhouses, there are garden apartments, and there are apartment buildings, sometimes in the code in different portions of that approval referred to as mid-rise apartments. In addition, there's a few other parcels, so you'll see some lake land, which is again considered part of the open land. And the whole point of this exercise, in the creation of the planned unit development, they committed to certain numbers. And so part of the analysis, when we did the special use permit for this application isn't a normal multi-use or multifamily special use permit. Multifamily is an allowed use within the planned unit development. However, any development that comes into here that is not part of the original drawings, not along the lines of the original drawings, must get a special use permit. And our criteria by which we judge is whether it meets the original design criteria of Riverton. And so they committed to I'm going to pull up the numbers here. Of course, I don't know that they have them as percentages, but they committed to a certain amount of open space. And now this is different than, I'm going to call it public space rather than open space, because this isn't just referring to, I have a house that only occupies 25% of my parcel, so the other 75% is open. This is referring to actually public land, so either town parks or the Riverton Community Association land. Naturally, sorry about that. Naturally, the numbers are right at a fold. So in terms of public parkland, so that's the Riverton Golf Course, Riverbend Park, there's 182 acres. There's 11.5 acres of ponds. There is about 4 acres of greenbelt. And then there is an additional 63 acres of recreational area. So that's things like playgrounds, swimming pools, and other RCA type parks, for a total of 261 acres. Now this is the old numbers. That should be dropped by roughly about 40 acres because there were 2 parcels that were marked in error. So that has since been corrected. But again, at that 200 acres, they committed to 25%. That's closer to 30 to 40%. So they're clearly above the mark in terms of open space. In terms of apartments and housing units, the breakdown was 35% single-family homes, 35% garden apartments, 18% townhomes, and 12% apartment buildings. Now, the single family we don't see as a maximum because that's sort of the fill-in. That's the least impactful type of housing. So we sort of see those limits as being on the other types, the townhomes, apartment buildings, and garden apartments. Currently, the townhomes are, the number of townhomes in the development are under that limit. The number of apartment buildings is right at that limit. And the number of garden apartments is well under the limit. There's a lot more, it's almost 50% single family homes. So there's a lot more single family homes than was originally intended. So for those who think that it doesn't make sense to put another apartment building in Riverton, again, according to the original design specs for the whole development, this is within line, as long as they make them garden apartments. So the question comes up, what is a garden apartment? In combing through all of the discussions and public hearings, and the basic way they describe the best description I heard that they gave a couple different descriptions, but the best one that I heard is that when I step out of my door, and this isn't necessarily the front door, it's actually typically the back door, I am surrounded by a park-like setting. And so that means I'm not overlooking a parking lot. I'm not directly looking into another building. I'm looking over grassy area with trees, maybe a wall of vegetation. And so when I look at their plans, they're actually pretty close to meeting the garden apartment requirements. There is one small section of buildings with I don't remember if it was 5 or 10 units that actually looks onto the side of another building. So they would either need to shift the apartments or actually remove those ones that are not considered garden apartments. Because if they add even 2 units that aren't garden apartments, they're over the limit. Like I said, it's literally right at 12, I think it was 11.9%. And so in that regards, as long as they make them garden apartments and do that adjustments, from a special use permit standpoint, by the criteria by which we can measure, they meet all the requirements. I can't find a single requirement from that design creation that they didn't meet. There is one thing I did ask them to do. You can argue whether this falls fully on their shoulders, but in the original commitment, they were going to grant 3 parcels to the school district for schools, future schools. Now that 3 was back in the days when this was 3 to 4 times the size that Riverton ended up. Riverton did not end up anywhere near the size as originally proposed. The issue is there's currently land that was granted to the school district of about 9.4 acres right on Scottsville West Henrietta Road. And they talk about that all through the, I won't say all through the hearings, in a number of sections in the public hearings. The problem is, and I don't know if this was a problem then, but it is a problem now, by state school codes, they need at least 12 acres minimum to build a school there. The Rush Henrietta School District prefers 15. So I approached the developer, since they surround that parcel, would they be willing to donate at least 6 acres? And they'd be willing to donate, it comes out to roughly about 6.5 acres. So the total lot for the school would be 16 acres. This property would go to the school. I would probably put in I don't know if it would be an easement or a deed covenant on it, that can only be used for school purposes or sit empty. So even if this were granted and allowed, there would be 16 acres that would be sitting empty unless at some point the school district builds a future elementary school there to service this neighborhood. So like I said, that essentially meets everything from the special use permit. The other part of the law that we get into when we're approving or denying one of these applications is the State Environmental Quality Review Act, or SEQR. Under SEQR, we have to look at potential impacts to the environment. And that doesn't just mean the ecology or green environment. It talks about traffic and noise and character of neighborhood. It also does talk about endangered habitats and things like that. So the single most glaring one is traffic. Traffic is already an issue on Scottsville West Henrietta Road, especially as it intersects with East River Road. If you add 120 units right there at that intersection, it's going to overwhelm it. And you see that in the traffic report, the analysis that the town's traffic consultant, when he reviewed the thing. Even in the report that they provided, they talk about how it's not failing. Well, it's getting a D, I think is what the grade was. So yeah, is that technically not failing? Sure, but it's horrible. And so basically in SEQR, the way it works though, you identify those problems and then it's up to the developer to attempt to mitigate that. So the most obvious way to mitigate that issue would be to put a traffic light at the intersection of Scottsville West Henrietta Road and East River Road. That would not only help with the traffic coming from this development, it would help with the traffic in general in that area. The question is whether the county will allow that. So I've asked my deputy town supervisor to reach out to the county to find that answer out. I think I asked him that yesterday. That answer's forthcoming. But simply if the developer is unable or unwilling to do that improvement, then due to the significant impact, it would be my recommendation that we deny this application. One of the things we have for everybody within this East River Road corridor is anybody who's traveled on East River Road knows there are traffic issues. And so something we created, I think it was my first year in office, we created an East River Road corridor where we have SEQR mitigation. So we worked with the county to develop, they basically said, if all the development along the road were fully developed, here's the impact that it would have, and here's what we would need to make the road usable. They added up that cost. They allocated a particular portion of the cost to the developers who are adding stuff to the road, and we essentially divided the total cost by the amount of vehicle trips they would add during the prime time driving hours, and that came up with a mitigation fee. So anybody who develops within that corridor, they do a traffic study, they determine the number of vehicles they would put on the road during the 2 prime driving hours, and they multiply that by that mitigation fee, and that's how much they must contribute towards the overall improvements up and down the corridor. Now, one of the things that we've also talked about in that corridor study is if they make a significant improvement to the corridor itself, if that is in excess of what they would owe as mitigation fees, it counts as their mitigation fees. So we're not hitting them twice. One of the things I'll note on that, it obviously can't be an improvement that is specific to them. So for instance, if they're putting in a driveway and they're adding a turn lane to get into their, into like a industrial development, they're putting a turn lane to get into their driveway, that doesn't count as improvement to the corridor. They have to do that for their turn into their development, but that doesn't improve the corridor for the rest of the corridor. So that would not count as mitigation fees. But again, if they were doing something here, like putting in a traffic light that helps with the current situation and future situations, that would count. So I don't know where that's going yet. Again, we're not going to make a decision today because there's a bunch of stuff still out on seeker. One of the other things that someone brought to my attention is there is was identified that there is a bald eagle habitat there. So I reached out to my attorney, not my attorney, the town's attorney, to look into that as far as what options are there for mitigation, and whether if it can't be mitigated, whether that is sufficient grounds to deny the application. I don't know that answer. This is the first time that's come up in any of the seeker applications that I've seen. So there are a number of other ones, and I touched at the last meeting in looking at ways, from the effect on the neighborhood, what can they do from a buffering standpoint and a vegetative green wall standpoint to minimize and mitigate those impacts on the surrounding homes. One of the things I will point out that is not part of seeker is my realtor told me it was forever wild. That's not a grounds by which we can deny the application. As Councilman Stafford and I were talking earlier, that's to us grounds you should be able to go after your realtor because that is not ethical practice in our opinions. And our realtor on the board is nodding her head in agreement with that. So, so like I said, that's kind of where we stand. If there is anybody here who wishes to provide feedback, the public hearing is still open and it's going to remain open until the next meeting. If there is anybody here who would like to provide feedback, please let me know and we'll continue that. Otherwise, we will, again, stop the current session, but the public hearing will remain open until the next board meeting. Go ahead, Craig.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Craig Eckert, Deputy Town Supervisor. I did talk to the county today, and as of this afternoon, they still have not received the traffic study. So I did reach out to the engineer to see if he did submit it to the county for review. So my conversation with the county was short.
Okay. Could you also make sure you send him our review of their traffic study?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody else wish to add any further feedback? I will note that someone circulated a petition. Currently, as of 2 o'clock this afternoon, there were 99 people who had signed the petition in opposition to the development. There was one person who signed in support of the development. We're doing the signature virtually. We created a petitions@henrietta.org where we asked the people to send their name, address, and whether they support or oppose. If anybody brings up points or issues, I typically try to respond them to let them know, the various rulings. But like I said, so far it is 99-1, so it's fairly clear this is not a popular development. But then again, I will point out that there aren't too many popular developments anytime it's going in on land that has long sat empty next to somebody's home. We had another one just today. Someone found out on Facebook about a development going in. It's actually on their original plans of the layout. They're not even carving up any new parcels. If you go into the Monroe County GIS, you see each of the homes and you see the place where the street is. The street was just never built and the homes were never built. And of course they too claim, well, that land was forever wild. No, it wasn't. It was never forever wild. First off, there's no forever wild land in the town of Henrietta, only in Adirondack State Park and I think a small portion of the Catskill Park. Second of all, there wasn't even conservation easements there. And third, again, it was part of the original design of that neighborhood, of which all their houses were also part of that original design. It's just for whatever reason, the developer didn't build the last 14 homes. People still aren't happy about it. They don't think it should change. That's a common sentiment. It's unfortunately not something we can rule on under law. People do have property rights. So again, we either have the zoning laws if they're compliant with all the zoning laws or the seeker laws to make sure they aren't creating any issues. In that particular one, there are drainage issues, so they will have to mitigate those before they would be allowed to build. But to give you an idea, like I said, where we're sitting at. Any other comment, anything from the board? Again, I know there's nothing really
No,
new.
sir, you covered it.
So,
Steve, I had a few items, Supervisor, I'm sorry, I had a few items that you and I had emailed about. I wonder if one of us should follow up with the developer directly. I wasn't sure if they were going to be here tonight.
the developer was originally had a meeting scheduled for today. They had to reschedule for next week. So, I could have you on the phone call when they come in if you want.
Okay.
I think that would be the best place to do it. So
Sure, let me know.
it'll be the developer as well as the engineers working for the developer. So,
Okay. Yeah, let me know when that gets rescheduled.
okay,
Sounds good.
thanks. Anything else? Anybody online? Hearing none, please call the roll. Oh, there's no roll.
Oh, I'm sorry. Lori just raised her hand. Let me allow her to talk. Hang on just a minute.
Great.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
It's my understanding that the exit from the apartments will be onto Scottsville West Henrietta Road. Is there any potential of that being moved over to River Road instead of coming out close to Mickens Bend?
Unfortunately, they don't have any street frontage on East River Road. So the parcel has frontage on Scottsville West Henrietta Road and it has frontage on Moore Road. So one of the exits would be on the Scottsville West Henrietta Road and one of the exits would be onto Moore Road. There really isn't any other place where, like I said, they don't really have any other street frontage than those two locations.
Understand the concern is just trying to get out of Mickens Bend when they're trying to get out of the apartment complex.
Sure, understood. Any other questions, comments? Then hearing none, we will close the session for tonight, but the public hearing itself will remain open and continue on, what would that be, the 28th? October 28th. There you go, Rob.
Thank you.
Next up, we have the proposed local law to revert to original zoning properties that were inadvertently rezoned as part of the comprehensive land use plan update. So again, basically what happened in 2018, we were working on the comprehensive land use plan update where we were removing multifamily as a allowable use from industrial and a few other zones. By doing that, we would have created a lot of grandfathered properties or pre-existing non-conforming. The issue you have there is that you are not allowed to expand or in many cases even just improve the use. So the point being, if they wanted to make their clubhouse even 20 feet bigger, they couldn't. And so we didn't want to create those pre-existing non-conforming uses, so we took the existing town apartment complexes and we put them into an R215 zone, which allows multi-use. Unfortunately, we did so in a zone that actually did not lose its multifamily and that carries other rules and restrictions with that zone. So we just wanted to revert it to that zone so as to correct that error. They never should have been moved in the first place because again, if you read the rationale for moving it, it was to not create grandfathered properties. Those properties were not grandfathered. They still, multifamily is still an allowed use. So we're reverting all those. So it's a fairly simple one, but because it's a local law, we have to hold a public hearing. Is there anybody who wishes to comment on this public hearing? So hearing no comments, I propose that we close this public hearing.
Second.
Hearing no objection, hearing closed. Last up, we have the continuation of the public hearing for special permit 2020-026 Tesla Motors or Arc Vision Inc. to update an automotive service center at 3300 West Henrietta Road to include a vehicle showroom and sales area. Couple updates. When they last presented, they had told us that there were no unplated vehicles on the property at that time. Councilman Stafford went there right after the meeting, and there were, what, half a dozen unplated vehicles on the property at that time. The next day, Councilmember Bolzner went and found, again, unplated vehicles. So we're clearly not happy that we were essentially lied to. In the intervening time, so the original application asked for a sales showroom. We basically informed them that whereas the licensure for vehicle showrooms is really more of a Department of Motor Vehicle law than a property zoning law, this town board feels that we should not be granting special permits for illegal activities. Since they were unwilling or unable to produce a dealership license for this property, we made it clear that we would not be approving a special use permit for a sales showroom. And so they have since amended their application. They are not asking for a sales showroom. They are asking for a educational showroom. And so the distinction being no sales activity can take place on the lot. They're basically educating people in the use of electric vehicles because they feel that they have to overcome a bias against electric vehicles, one largely created by the gasoline-powered automotive industry. There are some ramifications for it not being a sales showroom. One is that Town Code 207 prohibits the storage of unlicensed or unplated vehicles on any property within the town of Henrietta. And there is an exception made for dealer vehicles, so basically manufacturer vehicles that are at a dealership prior to sale. Those dealers, when they take them out for a test drive, they put dealer plates on them, they drive, they come back, they take the dealer plates off. They can sit at those properties unplated because of that exception for dealership. Since this is not a dealership, they do not have that exception. So we've made it clear that they cannot have, if they're going to do this, they cannot have unplated vehicles on the premises. And that if we do find unplated vehicles, that we would cite them. And so one of the things, you know, I put together because of the complexity of this particular approval, normally we just echo the approval and grant a special use permit. In cases where there's going to be a lot of stipulations, we write something up ahead of time. And so there are a number of conditions that we're looking to put on, and I'm going to go through those. Hold on 1 minute. I've got to find where there it is. Okay, sorry. I just wanted to pull up my resolution here. Why am I only seeing the one? Guess I'll pull up that one. Okay, so a couple of the stipulations we would place on the special use permit, that no sales activity shall take place on the premises or in vehicles driven for educational purposes or in any manner by personnel working for or customers visiting the educational center. Any instance of sales activity may result in the revocation of the special use permit and or citations and fines. So they're swearing up and down that this is not going to be a sales location. One of the things I will note that currently the DMV has not declared, they have not said that educational showrooms are against their rules or that they require licensure. So I know that some of the dealerships would like us to deny them because they say, oh, well, that's just a sales showroom in sheep's clothing. But that's not for us to determine. That's for the New York State Department of Motor Vehicles to determine. And so you'll understand what the next one, the next clause is. The educational showroom use is not deemed to be either illegal. Oops, I'll need to fix that. I was originally going to put these next two together in one and realize it was easier to do it as separate. So the educational showroom use is not deemed illegal by the Department of Motor Vehicles. If the use is determined to be illegal by the New York State Department of Motor Vehicles, this special use permit becomes null and void. So plain and simple, if the DMV determines it's illegal, they have to shut down their educational showroom. 3, the educational showroom use is deemed to require licensure by the New York State Department of Motor Vehicles. If a license is required by the New York State DMV, Tesla Motors must file for a new license or begin the transfer of an existing license within 30 days of the ruling, and said license must be obtained or transferred within 6 months of the ruling. Failure to do so may result in the revocation of this special use permit and or citations and fines. So again, if instead of saying it's illegal, the DMV says that it requires licensure, they're going to be required to get licensure or else they have to shut down the operation. 4, no unplated vehicles will be stored on the premises. If unplated vehicles are found on the lot, a notice of violation will be served, resulting in a potential fine or other actions as defined by Town Code Section 207-13. Repeated violations of this prohibition may result in the revocation of the special use permit. So if there's a single unlicensed vehicle on there because they forgot to put a plate on, we're not going to yank their license. But if they show a repeated pattern of scofflaw behavior, it could result in them losing their license, special use permit. Number 5, the number of educational vehicles on lot at any one time will not exceed the number of parking spaces in excess of the number of customer and employee parking spaces as required by code. As of the time of this application, that limit is 6 educational vehicles. If there are more than the allowed number of educational vehicles, a notice of violation will be issued. Repeated violations of this requirement may result in the revocation of this special use permit. So again, it's not a dealership. They can't have this giant fleet of vehicles out there. They sent us a letter committing to staying to 6 or fewer. We're going to hold them to it. I will note that myself and at least one other board member spoke with Al Gore Jr. from Tesla this weekend regarding this. He did issue an apology for how some of the hearing went down and some of the demeanor of some of their employees. He expressed regret that he wasn't himself able to take part in the process, and that he expressed Tesla's commitment to following our rules. He understands them, and he committed to following them. So with that said, open it up first to comments from the board and then from comments from the public.
On the vehicles that are plated on the 6, and I thought about this while you were reading that. How about vehicles that are plated, but they're not registered to that vehicle? I mean, I'm not sure how, I think in New York State, a normal dealer has dealer plates that they can put on pretty much any vehicle to do to do demo rides. I'm looking at in there now, they have a half dozen vehicles with Jersey plates on it. What happens if do those plates have to be registered to that car?
So again, you're now into DMV laws, not town zoning laws. they will need to follow the DMV laws. They, again, in speaking with Mr. Gore, he said that they would work with the New York State DMV to get plates, manufacturer plates in New York State for those vehicles. They manufacturer plates are not specific to a vehicle, but he essentially would get 6 of them. So they would be on those 6 vehicles that are there. Manufacturer plates are similar to dealer plates. There's some question as to whether a manufacturer plate can be used for a test drive. Again, that's a motor vehicle question. That's between Tesla and the DMV, not between Tesla and the town board. But we can take a look at whether we add, that the vehicles must be legally plated. But again, I don't know that we have the, let me rephrase that. The ultimate decision is what is a legal plate in that regards is the Department of Motor Vehicles, not town code officials. If we have a ruling from the Department of Motor Vehicles that say this is legal, this isn't legal, and we spot one that's illegal, we can then cite them. One other note on that. I lost my train of thought. Sorry. I'll come back to it.
Right now, I just was wondering if anybody's on from Tesla today.
Becky, do you know if anyone's on from Tesla?
It looks like Albert Gore is.
We have a bunch of people on from Tesla.
All right. Well, okay, before we go to Tesla, do we want to have any other town board members wish to speak before we hear from Tesla? Okay, go ahead and bring on the folks from Tesla. Is there anyone from Tesla who wishes to speak?
Yes, Supervisor Schultz, this is Albert Gore. Nice to talk to you again.
Thank you.
We appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and Councilman Barley, and appreciate the opportunity to present again to the board. Everything that you listed out is very reasonable, and we agree to it.
There was something.
We also discussed, Mr. Gore, the possibility if licensure could be brought to our town, that Tesla would pursue that. Is that so?
Well, we hope to. Henrietta is our only Western New York location. We love being in Henrietta, and so we're hopeful that we'll have the opportunity to move a license at some point. We also would hope to obtain more licenses at some point, but that's for another forum. I'll just say that we're very happy in Henrietta, and we would love to expand in this town if given the opportunity for full licensure.
Thank you.
I will point out that one of your customers is a service member up in Fort Drum, and he would also love to see something closer to the North Country. Don't know if that would be possible, but he actually would appreciate Rochester to not have to drive all the way down towards the New York City area.
Yes, I've heard that feedback, and we're glad to have a location in Rochester for that region, and so again, thankful for the board's consideration here.
I have a question, and maybe you could better explain it than it was explained a couple of weeks ago. Why is it that Tesla doesn't believe they have to follow the same rules as all the other manufacturers and have dealers? Basically, the way I understood it is because they don't want to. And there's a lot of companies and businesses out there that don't want to follow the rules, but they have to, and that's the way it is. we were given an example that at one time Ford bought up a bunch of dealerships in this area and then had to turn them back over to dealerships. So can you explain why Tesla doesn't believe why they're special and why they believe they should be exempt from having dealerships?
Absolutely happy to respond to that. I would take issue with the premise only in the sense that it's not that we don't believe we should have to follow the same rules as everybody else. We are bound by all the same rules as other dealers at our license locations. I would prefer not to get into a discussion about franchise law in this forum. I do have a lot to say about this topic, but I'll just say that I appreciated the description of the purpose of the prohibition on manufacturer ownership of dealerships that was offered by Mr. McReevy in the previous meeting. I think it was an accurate description. The purpose is to prohibit unfair competition between a manufacturer and its franchisees. That's how it's how it was originally intended. That's how it's been interpreted in many different places, where manufacturers that have no franchise dealers are allowed to apply for and obtain dealer licenses and sell directly. And we're not the only company that does that. We, again, are bound by all the same rules and regulations. We've chosen this distribution model. The other manufacturers have chosen a different distribution model, which works very well for them. And we don't have, any intention of undermining it or anything else. We've chosen this distribution model, and it's worked well for us. And that would be the way I would characterize it.
I just want to make it clear, I'm all in favor of EV cars to cut down on pollution and what they stand for. But the reason I asked the question, it came from one of your supporters who wrote me that said the playing field should be level. And they're the ones, your supporters are the ones who brought it up to me. I'm not, that the level playing field should be level.
A totally fair question.
Pardon me?
I'm sorry. I was just saying it's a totally fair question.
Right. And if your own customers are saying it should be level, that I would think that you should have a dealership license. And I don't understand why you don't want a dealership license for this location.
To that question, we would love to have this location licensed. We're limited in statute to 5 sales licenses in the state of New York. So this is not a sales location for that reason.
But you wouldn't be limited if you franchised it to one of the current dealers, a dealer.
That's correct, but we've never sold to franchise dealers anywhere in the world. Okay. It's something that we've chosen not to do in accordance with the law, and there are many reasons for it that I think it'd be probably well outside the scope of this meeting to get into them here. And I'm sure I know Mr. McReevy has a different view, and I'm sure he'll offer it. But again, I think we believe in electric vehicles. We specialize in selling them. It's all we do. We think that our model works very well. We follow all rules and regulations, and it's not an attempt to get any kind of special treatment or avoid regulation. It's just the distribution model that we've chosen.
Well, Mr. DeGore, I'm not sure if you're aware, when you say you follow all rules and regulations, here in Henrietta back last September, you had to be shut down because when you opened your service center, they didn't follow the rules and regulations. It seems that you believe you make the choices not to follow all the rules and regulations. So when you say that, that's not a true statement, that you follow all the rules and regulations, because we could, I believe it was September 11th of last year that you may have been closed down.
I apologize. Didn't intend to make an untrue statement. That was not at all where I was going. I think that's a separate context. If I specifically was referring to your question about selling through franchise dealers versus selling directly. If whenever we have any issue, we work as hard as we can to get back in compliance as quickly as possible.
Just to be clear, what had happened is they had opened the doors for business prior to obtaining their certificate of occupancy. And had their final inspection.
Right. Well, yeah, I appreciate that. I think I was not aware
of that. I'm just letting you know that that's what Councilman Staff.
No, I think he's maybe referring to certificate of occupancy, which I think we rectified within 1 week. If I'm incorrect there, it's not an intent to mislead. I'm just trying to recall from memory. But again, I think that's a different context than the context of our distribution model, which we've chosen.
So someone brought up this distinction. One of the differences between Tesla and the other automobiles is that, the other automobile manufacturers sold to franchisees. Families invested a lot of money, built these dealerships. And then to have a manufacturer then afterwards come in and open essentially a corporate store right next door, and to be able to undercut them and drive them out of business is part of why that law regarding independent dealership was put in place. In Tesla, they have never sold to independent dealerships. No one has built their family business on selling Teslas. And so they're not taking Teslas away from independent dealers by opening corporate dealerships. So that's how someone explained it, Mike, as far as one of the distinctions why it's a little bit different with Tesla versus, the instance with Ford, where Ford for years had been selling to independent dealerships and then was essentially unfairly competing against those dealerships that they themselves licensed.
I would agree with that characterization.
Another question is, you make it sound like the sole purpose of these, and I'll use what you refer to as galleries, are to educate people on electric vehicles. Is that a fair statement? I mean, that's what I get out of what your people have said.
That's correct. I mean, the location, there's a service center. So that's the primary purpose of it. But the gallery function is about, allowing a customer to come in, look at a vehicle, ask very general questions, sign up for a demonstration drive if that's what they're interested in. The vehicle that they will take a demonstration drive in is not for sale. It is a manufacturer plated demonstration car. And, if they are interested in talking about a purchase, we have very strict guidelines around that type of conversation, and they're directed to the nearest licensed location or to the website.
And so it's not the purpose to showcase your car, your Teslas, and get somebody to buy them. It's just to educate.
Well, yeah, most people when they come to a gallery, never driven an electric vehicle. I mean, we're still in that early stage of adoption. So, I mean, it really is a powerful kind of educational function. Whether they go on to buy one from us or one of the local dealers is not something that is accomplished in that visit to the gallery. it really truly is an educational function with very, very strict guidelines around any selling activity.
Okay. And once again, I'm not I'm all in favor of these types of vehicles. I've heard great things about Tesla, but I find it, these galleries are to educate owners on Tesla vehicles only and to convince them to buy a Tesla, because you're obviously not, or maybe I am wrong, but could you tell me, you obviously wouldn't teach them about, let's say, the BMW electric vehicle or the Porsche electric vehicle or the Chevy electric vehicle?
Well, we sell is electric vehicles. We do have a lot of expertise in electric vehicles generally and electric vehicle charging. Most of the questions people have is not specific to the type of vehicle. It's about charging for the most part. I mean, that's the biggest barrier to adoption, is how is refueling this thing going to fit into my life, particularly thinking about trips that they may only take once or twice a year. And how much is it going to cost to install a charger at my house or condo, that type of thing. I mean, the benefits of a pure educational function are pretty great in that area. Again, you can go and research and find a lot of answers to these questions, but not everybody's got time to do that. Sometimes the best way is to come and see it and talk to somebody. We also have solar products, energy storage products, which we have deep expertise in that. And we've got solar and storage installation operations in New York State. And a lot of times people are interested in how those products work. A lot of times people aren't familiar with those products, but they may be just interested in how do they reduce their emissions. So if they buy an EV from one that's not from us, and if they're not willing to travel 4 hours, then it's going to be, they're going to go buy one from the local dealers, and that's a win for all of us. I mean, speaking for myself personally, all the people that I work with, we're motivated by getting more EVs on the road, getting more people comfortable with what it means to own an electric vehicle, how important it is to make the switch. And it's a hard choice. People sometimes come many times before they're ever willing to even consider talking about a purchase, but they just have a lot of questions. And the dealers in the local area, I'm sure, do a fantastic job of this as well. I'm not claiming that we're special in this regard. I do know that we take it very seriously, and it's all we do.
So I will note, Mike, that I did test drive a Tesla at the time. There weren't a whole lot of other electric vehicles. I did test drive plug-in hybrids. I did a lot of research. This was 7-8 years ago. At that time, the charging infrastructure wasn't in place at the time. And plain and simple, even after that, been learning about what's involved in that. I had battery anxiety. I was afraid with my trips that I would get out, and unfortunately, Tesla, you could talk about fortunate, unfortunate. It's a design decision. They don't offer a generator. Some of them they refer to it as dual fuel. It'll still be an all electric car, but there'll be a small generator that you can essentially limp on down the road. They chose not to go that route, and at the time, the model that they had they didn't have the Model 3, which is more affordably priced. So when I looked at that and looked at other plug-in electric vehicles, I went the Porsche route. And basically, so the idea but I will tell you that I wouldn't have been looking at that Porsche electric if I hadn't first looked at the Tesla electric. So the idea that the educational vehicle is only to make you buy Tesla, I think we could all agree that, yeah, that plays a part in it, right? You're not going to buy a Tesla if you're not comfortable with an electric vehicle. And, I will tell you, 15 years or so, but no, I guess it was 2004. The first time I sat in and drove Toyota hybrid Prius, I first sat in it, fell in love with the car, right? So there's no question that, you know, when you do a quote unquote educational drive, there is some sales activity going on. But I will also say that the Tesla I drove wasn't at a Tesla location. It was a friend who owned one. Did they need a dealership license because I took a drive with them? Obviously not, right? But again, it was effectively an educational drive. I wanted to understand the differences. And I will tell you, one of the differences, and you need to learn it, the acceleration. The power of an electric vehicle is amazing. If you're not careful, you're going to get ticketed. Because you can, you know, and the other thing that my friends always joked about when I first came home with them, they said, you're going to be in trouble when your sons are teenagers because they can creep out of the driveway and you can't hear them moving. You know, but like I said, there's a lot of advantages to them. You know, I went the plug-in hybrid route. You know, one of the interesting aspects I found with COVID, I have not put a drop of gas in either of my vehicles this entire year.
Wow.
Because all my long trips have been canceled, and around town, I do it all on electric. And so, or maybe just a little bit of gas. I think I'm at 3/4 of a tank. I always start the year with a full tank. So, you know, that there is some truth to the educational is both some sales, if you will, but it's also just for electric vehicles in general, and I'm living proof of that.
So I guess my concern though is any of the burden that might be on the town in terms of, we were initially told that there were no unplated vehicles. We went over there were clearly unplated vehicles. We now have this proposed agreement that there won't be any unplated vehicles, but within, you know, the first few days, there was demonstrably unplated vehicles. So, you know, are we going to have to go through the pain of constantly citing with code enforcement and holding them accountable for these for violations going forward?
So I will say, based on the response from other dealers in the area, because to have that, you know, they're on dealership row. I think we will have a whole lot of code enforcement officers from the other dealers who will give us a call anytime they see an unplated vehicle, because I know all the dealers know it. So I'm not worried about that. You know, as far as, okay, then that means the code enforcement officer has to go out there. They do, and if, you know, again, if it gets to be burdensome where we're out there all the time, then they're going to lose their special use permit. It's that simple. So I'm not worried about the burden in that respect. You know, it's also in a high visibility area. I guarantee you our code enforcement officers go by that corner a lot. It would be very easy for them, if they're stopped at the light, to look to the right, see the lot. If they see an unplated vehicle, they'll cite it. So I personally am not concerned about the impact on code enforcement.
Okay. So just for my own clarification, if there's 4 or 5 vehicles that are unplated on the lot, is that 4 or 5?
Each vehicle is a separate citation.
Okay. And once the citation is issued, what's the process after that? How do we hold it accountable?
As per the normal process, they have X number of days to correct. That's actually written in code section 207. It talks about that. If they don't correct, then they typically get a notice to appear in court. If there are repeated violations, the vehicles there is authorization in there for the vehicles to be impounded. That's something that the town generally doesn't do. I don't think we've ever impounded a vehicle since I've been in office. I don't know the last time the town has done that. But again, in this particular case, if we find repeated violations, we would hold a hearing here. We would call Tesla in. If we're not satisfied that they're following the rules, we could then revoke their special use permit per the stipulations included in the.
Is there a ticket or a fee associated with a code violation? of
There
this
is,
sort?
it's minimum 100, maximum 250, no more than 15 days imprisonment or in jail. That's what it's calls in the code. I will just add, to be clear, those punishments have to be assessed by a judge.
Right.
You're innocent until proven guilty in a court of law, so.
That would give Kevin quite a bit of power.
Yeah.
I have a question for Tesla. You mentioned that you had a specific process that you follow if someone expresses an interest in a purchase. I was just wondering if you could elaborate on that a little bit.
Sure. Basically, if they want to talk, if they want to talk about anything that is within the realm of sales activity, then they're directed to the nearest sales location or to the website.
So
or there's a phone number that they can call as well, but those are not connected to the Henrietta location.
Okay. What would be your definition of a sales type question?
Specific pricing, financing terms, that type of thing.
I assume things like vehicle availability. I want this feature.
Yeah.
If they want to essentially configure the car they want to drive, that would be a sales activity.
Correct. Yeah. And these are things that, we've done extensive outreach to DMV. Our intention is to always comply with New York State rules and regulations. And so our guidelines are, geared towards making sure we're doing that.
And do you have an electric vehicle charging station there at the service center?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm gonna ask my team. No, we do not at the moment. It's not customer facing.
Okay, so it's within the service center for vehicles that you're working on?
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Anyone from go ahead.
Would you know if those plates, those New Jersey plates that are currently on those vehicles are interchangeable with other cars, or are they just for registered to those cars?
No, those are registered to those cars.
So they can't be taken off and put on another car.
No, they're registered. That plate is tied to that VIN. And just to the earlier question about unplated vehicles on the night of the previous meeting, sincere apologies for that. It was a miscommunication, not an intention to deceive the board. We get sometimes service loaners delivered where plates are in transit. We've clarified with the board since then that no unplated vehicles can be stored openly at any time. There was a section of the code dealing with service stations that there was an interpretation that maybe it was temporarily allowable, but we clarified that. And
it's allowable if it's, in other words, if the vehicle, so let's say a customer has their vehicle off road, they've surrendered plates. To get put back on the road, they need to be inspected.
Yeah.
Get to the service center, it could be there unplated. It has to be the customer's vehicle. The exception for service center is for the customer's vehicle while it is being serviced in order to be able to be put back on the road.
Correct.
Not allowed for, again, the loaner, that type of, with the dealer plate type of thing, that is for a dealership. That exception is for dealerships.
How about the delivery of new vehicles? I mean,
About what?
can they can they, under this, can Tesla deliver new vehicles there awaiting the new?
They would have.
No, we would never have a new vehicle that was offered for sale.
You to a customer, I'm sorry, excuse me for not,
Can't pick
if
up
I were to
your-
purchase one and what prevents them from delivering it to 3300 West Henrietta Road and me?
So again, this is an area of New York State motor vehicle law, but you can only take delivery at a licensed dealership or at a customer's home or place of business.
So they could put it on a flatbed, drive it to your home and drop it off at your home, but they could not bring it to this location and have someone pick it up there. That was clarified by Mr. Gore on my.
That's right.
So typically, how long does it take to order a vehicle and have it manufactured for a client?
Oh, it depends. If you're ordering custom from the factory, it's a kind of a big range, 2 to 6 weeks, I would say.
Oh, okay. I thought it was gonna take about 18 months for me to get a vehicle like that.
We do it a little quicker than that.
Mine took longer because it had to come from Stuttgart.
Is that right?
I think the problem that I have, and I think that a lot of other people are having, is that when you're going to a place and they're giving your information on a vehicle, you're going to get excited about it if you like it, and you're going, I just don't understand how you shut somebody down and say, no, go home and go on the internet and order your car. I mean, if somebody's in your showroom and they're excited and they're ready to go in their cash and let's do it, I don't understand how you tell them, no, go do it someplace else. I think that's probably one of the issues that we're having, is how you say that it's an experience for them, but they have to go somewhere else and no one's going to talk to them about purchasing.
It's easy to do it when the law requires it. So we take that very seriously. I mean, I understand your question. I hope that the board is not too concerned about that, because again, we do not, I understand what you're saying. I may see a commercial for a product on TV and get really excited about it, and have to figure out how I'm going to go buy it. This is a similar function, similar to marketing. We cannot handle the transaction at that location, and we don't. I wish we could, but we can't. So it really is purely, I mean, this is a service center where we have a very limited gallery function, only because there's enormous interest in electric vehicles in Rochester, more than frankly, is currently served. And so, but again, I think that's great news for Rochester area, Western New York. I mean, people are really interested in learning about these vehicles. Now, if they get really excited and, decide they'd like to talk about purchasing one, that's where the conversation ends in Henrietta, and they're directed to a licensed location. And it's easy for us to do that because it's required by the law.
Well, that's why we want you guys to get a license here in Henrietta, or move one here, so our clients don't have to drive to Mount Kisco or somewhere else for delivery.
We're hopeful for that as well.
So are we.
So did you say you applied for that license for the Henrietta location?
It could be in the future, he said.
If you, Mr. Gore?
I don't.
Yes, sir.
Solely his decision. Mike.
Did Tesla apply for that license?
No, we currently are at our limit of 5 licenses in New York State.
So
You have to pull it from someplace else to bring it.
they're having strategic discussions as to whether it makes sense to have all 5 of them downstate or to move at least one of them upstate.
So they're not that much of a hurry to move it up here. I mean, if they wanted to,
I suspect you have different people with different opinions on that within Tesla. I doubt they all march to the same tune drum on that one.
Well, we think upstate is the place to be, so.
The hell are you doing downstate?
We we love upstate. We love Henrietta. And again, just really appreciate this discussion, and appreciate the statements of the board members inviting us to open a full dealership, full sales location there. And hopefully we can do that someday.
Full dealership, I think, right?
Yes, if it was a sales location, it would have to have a dealership license. Any questions from the audience? Are you ready to come on up? Go ahead. Sitting patiently.
Brad McAreevy, Rochester Automobile Dealers Association. Thank you for the opportunity to address the board. It's an interesting discussion that we're listening here today. For those of us that follow this and have followed it for 15 years or so, some of the comments and so forth are particularly interesting as far as their philosophy and why they think their model is the better model. And as he said, this probably isn't the forum for that, but I'll make at least one comment about that. I'd like to go around and quickly address each of the concerns that the board members expressed. Councilwoman Bolsner, the answer is when the customer goes in there and shows that level of enthusiasm about buying the car, and the not salesperson, employee who happens to be there may not sit down right then and there and help them order a vehicle, but the email is in the customer's box literally by the time they get out the door. They send an order email to the prospective customer, and then the customer is given guidance on how to order the vehicle. And then at that point, they have to make a decision about where they're going to take delivery of their car. So they're either going to take delivery at their home or place of business, or they're going to drive to the nearest location, which we all think know is in Mount Kisco. So just to kind of recap on why we feel that this is a selling activity. When customers receive unsolicited emails encouraging them to come in, when a customer goes in there and is given features and benefits information about the car, and the person's out in the lot showing him all the things that go on with the vehicle, when the customer is taken on a test drive and shown how the vehicle operates, when the customer then expresses an interest in buying a vehicle and is sent an email immediately following their visit and is given the opportunity to order the car, when the car shows up at their house and they pay for it, however they choose to do that, and the vehicle is dropped off, we call that a sale. That's selling a car. That's what car dealers do every single day. They can do exactly what's going on there, and they do it. It's been done. It was done earlier this year. Frankly, it was the only way a dealer could sell a car under the COVID guidelines in the very early stages. It all had to be done remotely. So that's why we feel that what's going on at this location is a selling activity and is not a legal activity. Now, I know the Department of Motor Vehicle has not weighed in on this. We obviously have issues with that. Doesn't mean what they're doing isn't wrong. It just means that the DMV has not stepped up to it yet, which we continue to work with them on that. You expressed some concerns about their behavior and some of their oversights. I'm kind of curious about what brought them forward to ask for this permit now when what they've been doing has been going on for 3 or 4 months. This is not something new. I've been watching that location since it opened. They've had vehicles there. They've had unplated vehicles months ago. They've been given test drives. They've been doing all of this activity that we're now aware of, and they've come to the board now and asked for a special use permit.
I can answer that question.
Okay.
It's because they're modifying the building to have a showroom.
It's always had that part of the building. That's always been there.
They are specifically doing modifications to the building for that purpose.
So not because of all the activity that's been going on there.
You'd have to ask them, but like I said, I do know that they came forth to us with a modification to the building to be able to have essentially a gallery is the term they use inside the building.
Okay, so that was the triggering event that they that came forward, not because of all the things that they've been doing and now they're asking for permission to do.
That's, again, what brought it to my attention. I can't talk about their motives, nor can I talk about yours. You can.
Okay. Again, I guess the one comment that, well, you know, your friend said something about having a service center up in Watertown, and somebody else said something about having an opportunity to buy a car here locally. You know, all of those situations can be resolved very easily and very quickly by awarding a franchise. And the comment's been made about selling a franchise. Franchises are awarded to dealers who agree to partner and represent a manufacturer. The dealer buys signage and buys equipment and buys all the things that they need in order to represent the brand. But unless Tesla's doing something different than no other, well, they're not because they don't award them right now, but virtually every manufacturer in the car business awards a franchise to a dealer that they select to represent their brand in the market. It's not something that's sold, it's awarded. And when a dealer chooses to accept that, they choose to provide the full service needs of dealers and of consumers in their transportation needs. They're not just selling a new car. They're taking used cars in on trade. They're providing service and parts. They're providing a body shop. They're providing financing arrangements. They're providing a full service need to consumers. That's where this model that's being suggested here falls short. So that's not the point of this meeting. I know you're going to say that, but I just wanted to go on the record as saying why the franchise system is different from what their model is.
So, well, I was also going to get a little cute. You said they don't sell it, but doesn't the car manufacturer come in and encourage them to become a dealer for Ford, and they talk about why the Ford models are selling so great, and they really should come in, and at the end of the day, they get some agreement that says you sign this and you'll be boy, I call that a sales activity, don't I? Didn't you just tell us that that's a sales activity? So to say that the dealerships aren't sold, or that you're saying that Dorschel doesn't have any commitments to all the manufacturers that they have to pay for that, whether it's through a certain level of sales or some other, they don't have to pay for that right to be a dealership, and that there's some agreement that Toyota won't open another dealership directly across the street from Dorschel?
Well, that gets into the franchise laws, Supervisor. The only reason they don't order up a dealership across the street is because the franchise laws won't allow it. To answer your question, the dealer does not pay to be given the franchise. He buys all of the equipment and stuff that he needs in order to represent the brand. Now, if the dealer later chooses to sell it, there's a market for that. But in terms of the manufacturer selecting a dealer, they can pick anybody in the market they want. They can go out in the market and they can find who they think is going to be the best representative, who offers them the best facility, the best location, is willing to give them all the things they want. The manufacturer dictates the terms under which they're willing to enter into a franchise agreement, and if the dealer is willing to meet those requirements, then they enter into a partnership. That's how the franchise agreement works.
Understood.
Okay.
I guess my point is the fact that they have to expend money in order to be a dealer.
It's not being paid to Toyota. It's an investment.
So again, you're splitting hairs just like you're claiming Tesla's splitting hairs.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I know. We're all splitting hairs.
Right. But the point being, again, I understand where you're coming from. My point is that is a DMV law. So we have in here that if the DMV ever rules that this is an illegal activity or license, then it needs to be addressed. But until such a time, this town board is not have the authority to rule on what is and is not a legal or illegal sales activity with regards to motor vehicle laws. Nor do we have the expertise. So it would be, in my opinion, just insane to even ask the town board to rule on the legality of motor vehicle laws when that is not our function, that is not our expertise. We are ruling on zoning laws and property use laws. And in this regard, again, if you ask the Tesla lawyer who was here 2 weeks ago, he thinks we're already overstepping our bounds by not just granting it, because we're saying that you have to have licensure, and licensure has nothing to do with zoning laws. But our stance is that we will not issue a special use permit for an illegal activity. We have that in the approval, and I don't know, I don't pool the board members, I have no idea who is for and against this. I have some ideas based on comments and reactions. I have no idea whether this is going to go up or down. But the point is, one of the things when we were putting this together based off of the feedback from the public hearings and all of the public comments that we've gotten, I will say in the last week, I've answered a good 30, 40 emails. I'm getting shouted out by all the Tesla owners who say, how can you not support electric vehicles? How can you not have Tesla in here? I'm being shouted at by all the dealership owners from your organization saying, how can you give them special treatment, et cetera, and so forth. We're not. We're following the laws. And, this outlines to me, essentially, as, again, we can't dictate motor vehicle laws. So we're basically outlining saying, if the Department of Motor Vehicles says this, it's allowed. If they say it's not allowed. It's up to them ultimately. I'm not clear. I mean, I'd be curious. I get that you're against this. Do you have any feedback as far as these bullets? Do you think that they cover that? Do you think that there's something we missed? That I'd be more interested in hearing than just, we know you don't like Tesla. We know you think that they should be, you don't like them because they don't use independent dealers.
We don't like that. We don't like the model. We don't think it serves consumers' needs overall. And we're not against electric vehicles, by the way, either. The franchise dealers sell more electric cars in this state than Tesla does. So no one is against electric vehicles. And frankly, if it wasn't for New York State in terms of its incentives, well, not just New York, every state in the country practically, the government intervention into the electric car industry in terms of regulatory requirements and incentives and financial investments, there wouldn't even be a market. So everyone is behind it right now. No one is against it. All we're saying is that this particular model and what's being allowed to take place, from our perspective, violates the law. But I understand your position. You're saying DMV hasn't declared it. There's nothing I can do about that other than to take my issue up with DMV. To your point about your requirements, I think you're doing the best you can. It's if you feel comfortable with that, that you're meeting the requirements, what am I going to say?
Well, I didn't know if you thought we missed something, and I don't. So, for example, number 5 on the maximum number of vehicles, I didn't originally have that in there. Councilman Stafford brought that up. 4 or 5 o'clock this afternoon. So my point is, if you think we've missed anything, I'd appreciate to hear. If you think something we have in here doesn't adequately, again, the 2 outcomes I see is the DMV declares it's legal activity. Mm-hmm. The DMV declares it's an illegal activity. The DMV declares it's an activity that requires licensure. I guess the 4th scenario is the DMV continues to not make a ruling. Mm-hmm. Obviously, in the ones where if they deem it's legal, this special use permit stands. If they continue to punt on it, it has to stand because, again, we can't make that ruling. Obviously, we have something in there in the event that they declare it illegal or in the event that they require licensure. Mm-hmm. You might know this better than I would. One of the questions I have for you is, are our timeframes reasonable? That they have to apply within 30 days of the ruling and that they have to, I have no idea how long it would take to obtain licensure or to transfer a licensure. Is 6 months a reasonable amount of time?
To get a license?
So again, right now, because they aren't going the independent route, they have 5 licenses. I don't know how, I don't know if I say to the DMV, I'd like to transfer this license, for all I know, the DMV says that can't happen until January 1st. you know, I
No,
just-
I wouldn't say that would happen. They would be able to do that fairly expeditiously.
So-
6 months is plenty of time to transfer a
okay,
license.
that's what I wanted
To
to
go
know.
a step further, you know, if for some reason they're successful in getting additional licenses, DMV generally will issue a dealer license in 30 to 45 days.
Okay,
For an operation that's currently an operating entity in New York, which they are.
so 6 months is a reasonable amount.
Plenty of time.
Okay, great.
Plenty of time. Okay.
We don't want to be burdensome in that regards, but we also don't want to give people forever to slide.
Yeah, no,
So
6 months, quite frankly, is plenty of time.
Okay, great.
I'll tell you what I will do. I will read over your 5 items there. Do I have access to that information?
Becky, because we generated this late, I don't know. Can we add this to well, actually, I can forward it to your email.
Yep. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, I'll just read through it and I'll offer any comments.
Okay.
And so we don't hold it up. Okay?
Do you want us to bring in a paper copy or are you okay with the email, Steve?
Do you want a paper copy? Would that be faster?
No, email's fine.
Okay.
Brad, I have one question.
Yes, sir.
I thought I recalled you saying that DMV was going to rule on something on Tesla. I don't remember the date. Was that correct?
So they were investigating the location for what we felt was a sales violation.
Okay.
They had a conversation with somebody, perhaps the folks that are on the phone. DMV was accepting of their explanation,
Okay.
and so they have no position.
Okay.
Okay?
So that
And-
date went by. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Thought I remembered that.
they've accepted the explanation and they're not going to take any action right now.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Can I ask, does DMV have any oversight of showrooms? I mean, how, you know, I know they have, you know, if you like test drive a vehicle, it has to have a dealer plate on it or something, but the showroom itself,
In terms of what would go on in there,
yeah.
not in terms of the facility or any type of that. DMV generally is regulating the activities that go on there. They're regulating licensing, contracting, sales audits, things that are more document oriented and more process oriented. Not so much the facility. The facilities are generally have to meet specifications by the manufacturers and so forth that they represent.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
So their basic premise is that they want people to come in and be educated about electric cars. So if I was to go into one of the dealerships, other than Tesla, that has electric cars, do they want to educate me or I guess I'm listening to them saying they want to educate almost as if the other dealerships don't want to educate me. So, I would assume, I just bought a car a little while ago. I went in, they educated me on the car I wanted to buy. But I would assume that the other dealerships want to educate me on electric cars as well, correct?
Absolutely. Sure. Dealers educate customers on their car buying purchases
Right,
all the
right.
time.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. So I'm listening to it saying they're going to help the other dealerships, but I've never gone into a dealership where, in buying a car, I went to 3 different dealerships before I got what I wanted. Everybody wanted to educate me on buying a car.
Yeah, look, the general nature of electric cars is very similar. Certainly some of the brands have some small uniqueness to them, but the concept of electric vehicles and how they operate and the whole charging concept and battery life and all that type of stuff, that is generic across the lines, with some variations of some batteries will hold a charge better and charge faster. That's really maybe some of the main differences, but the concept is the same for everybody, and you could walk into virtually any dealer and interact with somebody and get the same information. The only thing about the dealer is they might be bold enough to suggest to you that they actually want to sell you a car. So.
And I will say again, from my personal experience of others, like there was somebody who was looking at like Nissan Leaf and others, and as they went to each one, it helped reinforce their belief that they needed to buy that style of car. So, whereas yes, each dealer is trying to talk you into buying their car, there is absolute truth to the fact that if it's a style of car that I've never purchased before, the more times I see it, the more options I see, the more likely I am to buy that style of car.
Well, I know with me, I went to 3 dealerships and the third one I sat in the car and I'm like, this is it. I was done. So I guess that was my thing. If I went into a Tesla and sat in a Tesla and fell in love with it, I don't want to go home without my car. I mean, I've made a decision.
Well, unfortunately, right,
But you know what I'm
you
saying?
would have
To
to.
know that I've got it, that I can
You-
sit down with you and let's do what I need
You
to do.
understand, you recognize something that the car business is largely
Right.
predicated on, and it's an impulse
Right.
purchase.
Right. I mean, when you're ready to buy, you're
Okay.
ready to buy. At least
Yeah.
I am with a car.
Yeah.
You know, I want to get it.
And not too many dealers are going to deny you the opportunity to buy the car.
Well, they typically don't want you to walk out that door.
And that's why I leave.
Yeah, yeah. That's a good negotiating tactic, Rob.
And you'll probably
Walk
get
out the door.
emails in your box.
Yeah. So,
Hard to do.
okay.
What are the types of plates that would be legal for this type of showroom? I know that, you know, we shouldn't be seeing dealer plates, but somebody mentioned manufacturing plates.
Yeah, so there's a category in New York called the transporter plate. And a transporter plate encompasses plates that are used by manufacturers typically to move vehicles from location to location. And inside of that plate, there's a option to use it for a demonstration of a manufacturer-owned vehicle. So I think when they said manufacturer's plate, manufacturer's plates are typically assigned to a vehicle.
Right.
They're registered, okay, as a manufacturer. But the transporter plate, I think is what they're referring to. That plate can be moved from vehicle to vehicle for use by a manufacturer for a number of reasons, including a demonstration of a vehicle.
And one of the distinctions in understanding it under motor vehicle law, if they only ever have that style of plate and never been registered to a owner, then they fall under the demo model, which from a warranty and other stuff can still be considered a new car, even though it has mileage on it.
Okay.
Now, they obviously can't sell it here, but they can, you know, after it's been used for a demo for a while, they can transfer it to, you know, one of their 5 dealerships and actually sell it there as a dealer model. Whereas if they registered it to Tesla itself as, you know, as
Company-owned vehicle.
Company-owned vehicle, it would then be considered a used vehicle, would fall into a different category under the New York State DMV laws. So again, that was explained to me, that the distinction as to why they want to use, you know, basically why they don't want to register them to as a company car.
Another question
Yes,
came up concerning the sales tax, and I think I've gotten 2 different answers on that. It was my understanding when you register a car, no matter where you registered it, you paid the sales tax for the county you lived in, and the money went to that county. So let's say I was down.
Linda did clarify that. I think I had stated incorrectly previously.
So I just want to make sure, so if I buy a car in New York City and I register it in New York City, does that sales tax money come to Monroe County?
So you would not register it down there. There's really only 2 choices. If you buy a car out of the area in another state or in some other outlying area, there's 2 things that are going to happen. One of 2 things. The dealer is going to issue you a temporary tag and is going to hand you all the paperwork that you need to take your title and registration back to Monroe County, and you would walk into the local county clerk's office and title and register your car, at which point they'll charge you the sales tax. Or there are what are called title and registration services that oftentimes do out-of-state deals. Like if I'm a New Yorker and I'm buying a car in Florida, you know, we get snowbirds going back and forth. If I want to buy a car in Florida and I want to register it back here in New York, they'll use what's called a title and registration service. They'll title and register the car, they'll collect the sales tax, they'll forward it to the state, to New York State, and New York State will then allocate the portion of it that belongs to the county in which you are registering your vehicle. So the money comes back here under any circumstance. It comes to the residence location where the car is being registered.
And some dealers essentially, I suspect all dealers offer that service so that, like, in other words, that if you buy it, when I bought my vehicles from Dorschel, they handled the plates, they got the plates, they did, in other words, I didn't have to go to DMV, they collected the sales tax, they remitted.
They do it
to-
all.
Yeah.
That's
So,
correct.
Essentially, they did that service.
I knew they did it locally here. I just didn't know how it worked when you were out of the county.
Just,
Just
like I said, they'll hand it to you and you can bring it back. And the only way you're going to get a license plate is to take it in and register the car, or the service will do it for you. Most people will bring it back themselves and take it into the county. Okay.
And this is, I don't know if this would be Steve or Kevin. On the original application, Tesla said they wanted to have a sales and showroom, I believe it was. Do they have to, did they
They already
apply?
amended it.
Did they have to make a new application out, or what did they have to do to?
They sent a letter indicating that they are amending their current application to read this way. We've done that. We do that with all applicants. Any applicant is welcome. In other words, if, and especially if in a hearing, we say you can't do it that way, you need to do it this way. They will typically, they can do it. We allow them to do it either way. They can either take their original application. If some people have done it through a editable PDF, so it's real easy for them to make changes. Others printed it out and hand filled in the stuff, so it's more difficult for them to make changes. So as long as they send us a letter from somebody who has the authority to do that modification, we attach the modification letter to the application and modify accordingly. So that's what was done in this instance. I think Jenny had responded back, letting everybody know that that's what had happened here. So they did modify their application.
And I take it we got the person who modified it is authorized. So we don't have any issues. Okay.
Well, again, we know that Mr. Gore is authorized and he has, approved the modification to he has no issue and has committed to agreeing to all the stipulations we put in the resolution if we should approve it. Okay?
Anything
Anybody else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Rick Cognata, and I just wanted to give you guys a consumer's point of view. I'll be very brief. I have had my Tesla since May of 2019. In my entire life, I've purchased vehicles at dealerships. And I could not, like you folks, wrap my head around going to a place and buying a vehicle online. And part of my frustration was learning more and more about these vehicles, becoming more passionate, getting excited. How do I buy one? I'm not going to buy a car sight unseen, just go online, press a button and buy one. I wanted to physically touch it, drive it. Unfortunately, I didn't know anybody that owned a vehicle. So I had to beg, borrow, and steal and figure out somebody, a friend of a friend who actually owned a Tesla. Luckily, he let me drive it. I fell in love with it. And I chose the option to go online and actually drive out to Mount Kisco. They paid for my rental vehicle. I drove out there, I dropped it off, and I drove my vehicle home because I wanted that experience to actually speak to somebody. Even though I watched every YouTube video known to man, I still wanted to actually have the experience versus having it dropped off, just like we heard about at my driveway. I've got a lot of friends now that's done that, and they've had zero problems with it. But again, I'm hearing a lot of questions like, how do you do that? Like you made a great point. You get excited, you want to buy the vehicle then. I felt that same frustration. It's just a different model. So that's all. I just wanted to let you know, if you haven't heard it already, what it's like from a consumer's point of view to actually buy a vehicle, press a button online, do all the financing, and then the experience when I went out there was absolutely amazing.
Is it Rick?
Yes, it's Rick.
Right.
Oh, yes.
So what's your address? That's one thing you didn't state for us.
And you can just give the.
Oh, I'm
the
sorry,
street.
where I live?
Yeah, just street address. That's.
I'm sorry, 48 Aldwick Rise, Fairport, New York.
Cool. So you ordered this online?
Correct.
How long did it take for them to make the vehicle?
Well, there's a great point. You brought up making a vehicle. They had the store out there in Mount Kisco actually had vehicles there.
Okay.
So probably a week and a half, 10 days. They just had to do some paperwork, get the exact vehicle that I wanted,
Okay.
with all my specs. And probably 10 days later, I drove out there.
But you could have drove out there and found a vehicle on the lot and bought one.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Good
So the
point.
question. Okay.
Yep.
And Rick, you mentioned you wanted to give us customers' perspective. We've gotten plenty of that.
Have you?
Yes, we
My
have.
apologies. My apologies.
No problem. I'm just, we've.
Sorry about that.
we've
Different
gotten
than an
plenty of
email. I'd rather
perspective
hear
from-
him instead of
Yes,
an
yes.
email.
Yeah, I was
I'm
going to
just-
say, we've got perspective on how people love it, but we haven't gotten perspective on how they've purchased it. So
process,
it's
okay.
interesting to hear
Okay.
the purchase.
Yeah.
Yes. It's different, that's for sure.
Amazon for cars.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. We
They
appreciate
probably
it.
don't have the same return policy.
I don't know how you guys stay up so late. Jim Salvisky, resident, investor, entrepreneur. Love Henrietta, been here for a long time. Just like Rick, I did something a little bit different.
Please stay in front of the microphone because
Did something a little bit different. I actually never drove the Tesla. I bought it in 7 minutes online and they brought it up from Mount Kisco on the back of a truck delivered to my house. But most amazing experience ever. I've given since at least 100 different demos and test rides. I've probably sold at least 10 vehicles. And they leave my car and yes, they do rush home and they go click, click, click. 20 years ago, we didn't have email. 10 years ago, you probably didn't have a smartphone. 10 years from now, you're all going to be driving EVs. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when they are coming. And we're fortunate to have the service center in Henrietta. And I think we're fortunate to be able to actually continue to educate people. And it's great that it's not just Tesla, it's all the dealerships that are starting to become awoke to the EV movement. I own a vehicle, or I own a business down the road, Spot Cowork. We just invested and put in 12 EV charge stations.
Wow.
They're completely free, not just to our customers, to everybody in Henrietta. We put in 4 Teslas, we put in 8 non-Teslas. That's how confident I am. I just simply want to thank the board for being open-minded and letting Tesla and all the other dealerships continue to educate all of our consumers. We're fortunate to have them here in Henrietta.
I have a question.
Yes.
What was your first name again?
Jim Salvisky.
So your business is off, it's on Winton, right?
Goodway Drive, across from
Goodway
Valley
Drive.
Cadillac.
Okay, I work up the street from there. And you bought a vehicle in 7 days?
I bought the vehicle in 7 minutes.
Really?
7 minutes. The financing portion, all online, a couple clicks, probably took another 8 or 9.
Okay.
And the delivery was cool. It showed up in a covered wagon.
And you live here in Henrietta?
I've been a past resident. Now I live in Mendon, and we own commercial properties in Henrietta.
All right, great.
Yeah, I want to thank you for installing those chargers. We've had some talk about, possibly requiring new developments, installing chargers.
And you should.
And I think it's very important because I agree 100% with you that we're going in that direction. When we get there, everybody has their own theory, but it sure looks like we're moving a lot quicker than some people thought.
We're putting them in at all of our buildings. So I own about a dozen buildings. Henrietta was the fastest and easiest to really get that process through for us. So for that, we appreciate it.
Wow.
Thank you again, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do have a resident. Oh,
Go ahead, Becky.
I do have a resident with their hand raised if you're ready for them.
Absolutely.
Harry, go on ahead.
Good evening. My name is Harry Birch. I'm one of the founding members of the Tesla Owners Club of New York State. I'm a former resident of Henrietta. I live in Penfield now. I'm also a former firefighter for Henrietta. And I just wanted to tell you that I've owned one Tesla for the last 4 years. I constantly get stopped and asked questions about it. And so I answer those questions about, like, what do you do? The most common one is range anxiety. How do you charge it? What do you do if you're on a road trip? Things like that. And I just explain how the system works. And I said, yes, this particular one that I own, because I own a Model X, is definitely an expensive vehicle. However, there's lots of other ones out there. Tesla has mid-range. They're expanding their whole selection, but there's a lot of them out there that are battery electric vehicles. And of course, there's a difference, and I explained the difference between battery electric and pluggable hybrid electric vehicles. So people have lots of questions about that, how they perform in the wintertime. I'd say that this is going to be basically the same for an electric vehicle as for any fossil fuel vehicle, except that you're going to have constant torque. Things like this. These are the kind of questions I get asked. They like to see it. They say, well, I can't afford that. I said, well, there's lots of other options out there. There's a ton of new electric vehicles coming out. And China, for one, is going to be developing a whole ton of selection. And we're going to see probably China importing electric vehicles into the United States in the next few years. So there's going to be a flood of electric vehicles coming in. But I try and emphasize that, you know, Teslas are great. There's lots of great features, but they're not the only thing out there. You need to be looking around, do your research, and really, you know, try and learn about it. The whole purpose of my educating people is really to demystify, because people really don't understand electric vehicles. So my purpose is to demystify electric vehicles. They're not really strange. They're just a little different. I think it's a great idea. One of the problems, I like the suggestion about putting it in the town code. One of the biggest problems is for apartment dwellers. They don't have a place to charge their vehicle because they don't own property. So even if you were to only simply require it for apartment buildings, garden apartments, such as you're doing in Riverton there, that would be a fantastic opportunity there, because that's something that people really need to have.
Great, thank you. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Patrick Ho. I'm the president of Tesla Owners Club, New York State, headquartered here in Rochester, New York. First of all, I have to thank the board for listening to our comments and suggestions. And I really am excited that you allow Tesla to set up a gallery here in the service center. The club started about 2 years ago. And you talk about education. I have been driving Tesla for 5 years now. And my whole family drive Tesla, because after you've driven a Tesla, you don't see any reason to drive a gasoline vehicle. But don't get me wrong, I still love gasoline vehicles. I have a whole garage full of it. But those will be for my collection. But let me share with you why a gallery is important. Last year, we decided as a club, we want to educate. We want to let people know about electric vehicle, okay? And so we started doing demo drives. So we have members send it to friends and family to say, hey, it was in Rochester. We're gonna be offering demo drives. So people can come to my place of office, we gather together and people come. So that was a very successful event. People come here, there's so much misinformation about electric vehicles. I mean, Supervisor Schultz, you did the research. Many people didn't have that kind of luxury or the skill set to do the research. They ask about, how long you charge a car, how far you can drive, what happened in the middle of the road, you run out of juice, that kind of stuff. Plenty of things. And actually, even funny is that, how do you change the battery? They think it like a flashlight. You can pull the battery and plug another one in there. And that's something that we are happy to do, because we believe in the future of transportation, and that is electric vehicles, okay? It's clean, green, and sustainable and renewable. And true electric vehicle has zero carbon footprint, okay? I mean, granted, there's a lot of hybrid, you drive one, but the thing right now here is that we consider electric vehicle that will not produce any, combustion byproducts, okay? Just to get some of the facts straight, okay, all right? I got some data for you, just for your reference. There are now, as of October, there's about 19,329 Tesla vehicles on the road in the state of New York, okay, all right? And there is, I'm talking about battery electric vehicle, not the hybrid, not the plug-in, okay, all right? And the non-Tesla battery electric vehicle in the state of New York as of beginning October is only 7,173, okay, all right? And so Tesla vehicle is composed of over 74% of the electrical vehicles on the road in the state of New York, okay? That is true electric vehicle with zero carbon footprints, okay, all right? This is the future, okay, all right? And agree, how as an owner of a hybrid would migrate to electric vehicle, they have to experience themselves. And how can they experience that is through demo drive, education, mostly done by owners like us. I love my Tesla, and not only just it's clean, it's the technology that's involved. I think Henrietta is in a sweet spot to become the magnet of EV buyers all over upstate New York, okay? And honestly, in all fairness, you want to be a level playing field. Why is Tesla interested buyer have to drive 5 hours to do a demo drive when a regular dealer can go half an hour, 15 minutes to go to dealer to do a test drive, okay, all right. So I think it's only fair if you allow demo drive and people can actually touch and see and feel the car before they make the purchase, okay. So I believe that, electric vehicle is gonna continue to dominate. It's one of the fastest growing segment in the auto industry, and we are proud to be involved, and I'm so excited and that the town of Henrietta is part of this future. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
As an engineer, I just want to make one point. Electric vehicles are not zero carbon emission. The manufacturer, especially of the batteries that go into them, has a large carbon footprint. However, the payback period is of roughly 3 years, depending on how much you drive the car. If you look at a typical 150,000 views, 150,000 miles for how much a car is driven, a gasoline-powered vehicle will use about 3 to 4 times the amount of carbon that the electric vehicle does. The other place that electric vehicles do use carbon is depending on where you're located. There might be fossil fuels used to generate the electricity that you're charging with. But again, so the one study I saw used for New York State, it used the typical, there's a particular mix of, in other words, across New York State, you have hydropower, you have nuclear power, you have fossil fuel power, solar power, wind power. There's a lot of generation. They basically took the percentage of how much is used of that electricity comes from fossil fuels and figured out the rate and even included. So if you watch the bars, there's a big hunk in year one for the electric vehicle because of the battery construction, but it goes up only a little bit each year because of that electric usage. And then, of course, the gasoline vehicle is going like this because every gallon I burn, I'm pumping out a bunch of carbon. So I just, like I said, as the engineer in me, I probably should have let it go, but I can't.
No.
I'm sure my clerks are yelling at me because this meeting's going long and I know Terry needs a rest, our interpreter, but I just couldn't let that go.
Actually, this question has been brought up a number of times when we have the event, okay?
Right.
So what we're talking about zero carbon footprint is the direct as a result of
Direct
transportation.
footprint, correct.
Right. I mean, right now, if you know that the gallery is also going to be, showcasing their solar panels, the Tesla solar products. So if I have a home, they're going to be using Tesla solar product on the roof and solar electric, vehicles. It's going to be substantially reduce the carbon output from your everyday transportation. I think this is the goal. Yeah, we can never eliminate, carbon byproduct, but the thing is, we are all doing a little bit to help the cause. So, and now Henrietta is part of it, and I'm so excited, and I really thank you for all your consideration.
Yeah, you bet. And sorry, I was just gonna say, one of the places you can see the impact of even just hybrid vehicles, as someone who'd been to New York City in the 70s, the change when the taxi fleets went to Priuses and now subsequent other hybrids, it was noticeable on the streets of New York, the difference in the level of smog, just from a partial zero electric vehicle. Imagine now if all the taxis were fully electric vehicles, the pollution in New York City would drop off dramatically. But I mean, it used to be, in the 70s, if you were up on the Empire State Building, you'd have trouble seeing to the river. There was so much smog. That's, don't get me wrong, it's not crystal clean air, but it's a whole lot better. And that's predominantly due to the introduction of electric vehicles, again, starting as hybrids and now going to full electric. So
just to echo, because the Cuomo administration right now in New York State is pushing electrical vehicles, hard, and you're gonna have charger along the major throughways in the state of New York would have public charging system in there. I mean, granted, they are not for Tesla, but the thing is that, they're for the, other kind of EV from legacy, manufacturers, but EV is EV. The result is all contribute to a better environment for the future. So, yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
Mike's been cut off.
Well, go ahead, Rob. Go ahead.
Oh,
I can wait.
never mind. Go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
So, once again, not against EV vehicles. I think we need them. It's too bad it taken so long to produce them. But I think I do have an answer for you. I know you asked about why you have to drive 5 hours to buy one or to test drive one. And maybe Mr. Gore can answer this question again. Or correct me if I'm wrong, it's because Tesla chooses not to go to the traditional franchise model where they could be selling and Mr. Gore could correct me, Mr. McAfee could correct me if I'm wrong, but they could be selling these cars all over the place if they chose to go to the traditional franchise market, but they choose not to. So that's the reason. I've gotten emails, like I said before, about leveling the playing field. Well, leveling the playing field, if all the other manufacturers are required to go through a dealership, that would mean they go through a dealership too.
Let me demystify that for you. Okay, this is a misinformation. Okay, let me explain to you why. Okay. Elon Musk saw it right at the get-go when he launched Tesla. Okay, that the regular franchise dealer would not want to promote electric vehicle because it is killing their cash cow. Okay, in what a regular dealer, when they sell new cars, that's not the major profit source. The major profit source is by repair, maintenance of the vehicle that they sold. Okay, all right. However, with electric vehicle, the maintenance is so little, right, that their cash cow would be like going on a heavy-duty diet. Okay, that is why a legacy dealer will not sell vehicle, and it's proven by the fact that GM, when they designed the first vehicle, once they got a prototype done, what did they do? They scrapped them. Okay, all right.
They didn't just scrap it; they shredded them.
Well,
the EV1, yeah,
exactly. So why? Because they don't want it to become adopted by the mass. Okay, now Also proven repeatedly when a consumer go to a regular dealer looking for electric vehicle, the salesman will try to sell them a regular car. Now, therefore, consumer wouldn't know better, or they will give them information that lead them, you have to charge it, every day or whatever things to lead them to buy the regular gasoline vehicles. Okay, so that has been proven, and that's the reason why Elon believes that if he go to the same franchise model, Tesla vehicle would not be sold or would not have a fair presentation to the consumer. Okay, and I believe right now technology has advanced substantially over time. I mean, look at Amazon. Amazon is become so huge because they take over the model of brick and mortar in selling product to consumer. It's nothing wrong with brick and mortar. Consumer make the decision, make the choice by using their wallet. Okay, all right. So the bottom line right now here is that Tesla choose that model because that they feel that, or Elon feel that that is the best way to present a product directly to consumer instead of through an intermediary where it could be distorted, it could be have other agenda that the product would not be presented according to what he envisioned would happen. All right. Remember, Tesla have not spent one single dime in advertising. You never see a TV ad about Tesla. Okay. All right. So basically, Tesla can become where they are right now is only through people like us. We love the car. And I tell my friends, you got to do this. And I bought my first Tesla. I let my son drive it to Pennsylvania to see his girlfriend. He came back, said, Dad, I want a Tesla. Okay, I said, well, sure, you want it, but you have to pay for it yourself. Okay, all right, right. And then my wife loved the Tesla, so she got a Tesla. So this is kind of like in a nutshell to explain to you.
So you couldn't tell her she got to pay for the car, right?
Yeah, I have to pay for it. Yeah.
There's no doubt that Tesla owners and I love their vehicles. I've well aware of that in the last 2-3 weeks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have one question for Mr. Holt.
Yes.
And the other guys who own the Teslas. Are any of you being paid by Tesla to promote their vehicles?
No, not even a bit. As a matter of fact, we pay to come here. I mean, I saw on my own dime, on my own time. Okay, all right. The reason being here is there's so much false information out there that I feel that if we don't stand up and clarify that, those kind of false information is going to be distributed and infiltrated, okay? And I have to, in all fairness to something that I'm passionate about, I think we need to be here to explain. And that's why we are here. So,
all right, thanks.
I want to thank all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate the time.
So what I would like to do, I see someone.
I just need to respond to that. Okay.
Well, actually, no, we're going to take a break.
We got it.
We're going to take a break. Our interpreter needs a break.
It's 30 seconds, but if you
No,
want.
sorry.
Okay.
Well, the other thing we've got, go ahead. Yep, go ahead.
We're gonna take a break.
Nope. We're going to take a 5-minute break.
Right. Good idea.
You don't have to run, Terry.
The other, well, I'll wait till she's back. I said I'll wait till she's back.
All right.
They apparently forgot that I had said we should put.
Did you see my email, Steve?
Yes, I did. I have that open right now. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a pause on the public hearing. I'm gonna go, I think we need to clear these resolutions. I see the BDS thing up there. I know they've been waiting. It's 2.5 hours they've been waiting. I think we need to clear the resolutions.
Okay, yeah.
And then we can go back to the additional. I'll let Brad talk for, I'm gonna start a timer though, Brad, you're gonna have 30 seconds.
It won't be more than a minute or two. I'm just going to clarify.
Okay. And if you want it printed, I don't know if it's, I put you as the reader because
That's
I
fine.
knew you would access it.
And I'll just ask somebody in
readily.
a second.
Okay.
Because
I didn't fill that in because I didn't know.
I don't know who's scoring against. I agree.
Yeah. I was like, I don't think I should put.
No, I agree.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
No, it wasn't him that said, I said, Terry, don't run. It was me. I yelled, Terry, don't run.
No, I had started to say something and I said, I'll wait till she gets
Oh,
back.
okay.
I was just gonna talk about how I was gonna put it on pause. I got my microphone up right now. You need, I was gonna call it anyways, just before I knew you were kind of go. It's good for her to Starbucks.
I know, but it's so convenient now, isn't it? I told my other my daughter goes almost every day. I'm like, honey. And the girls are like, they order, the cake pops or the, now they make them look like little boxes and little.
What do you think our ramps get? Huh? What do you think our ramps get? Our ramp get charged? No, the carbon footprint of it. Rambo.
I ordered something from Amazon, like at 11 o'clock.
Yeah, man.
Monday night, Tuesday morning.
Too much, just the start of it. The problem.
Local warehouse here. And I had wasn't even 12 hours later.
All right. It's cooled down.
Still says live on it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I just turned my mic off.
Yep.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, we will now resume the town board meeting and the public hearing. So Brad, go ahead. Give you 30 seconds.
So first of all, look, I respect totally these gentlemen that are here that are Tesla owners. No one has ever suggested that the vehicle is not a great vehicle, that their enthusiasm is anything other than fantastic. It's done a lot to bring the industry forward, and the auto dealers have nothing but good things to say about that. But I do want to clarify, as Mr. Ho suggested he wanted to clarify, the people that work in car dealerships sell cars. If a customer walks into a dealership, which practically every one of them sells electric cars today, and a customer says, I'm here to buy an electric car, the person is going to take him over and show him an electric car. The suggestion that a salesperson wouldn't want to do that is not, it's just not real world. That's just not how it works. Salespeople are indifferent to the car that a customer buys. They're indifferent. If you want to buy an electric car, we'll sell you an electric car. If you want to buy a gasoline-powered vehicle, we'll sell you that. If you want to buy a truck, we'll sell you that. They're indifferent about the cars that people drive. I know that Elon Musk has suggested that that explanation that Mr. Ho just offered was the rationale for why they didn't want to work through dealers. That's just not true. Now, Tesla is producing, maybe last year, I think 350,000 cars. They have a goal of producing, I think they're trying to do 500,000 this year. I don't think they're going to make it, but they're reaching a point where they're producing some pretty good numbers. Not quite on the level of some of the major manufacturers, but when Tesla reaches a point where they're ready to go mass market, where they're ready to facilitate the sale of their vehicle in all the markets around the country, the franchise system will welcome them. And they will be in a position to deliver on that. The model that Tesla has right now, frankly, I believe that they do it the way they're doing it because they don't produce enough vehicles to mass sell. So they're not there yet. But when they are there and they're ready to do it, the franchise system will welcome them.
We're over by a minute and 40 seconds.
Could I say something for this is Albert Gore from Tesla. I just want to say I appreciate those comments, and I have nothing bad to say about the auto dealers, the other manufacturers. We got a big task to hit the EV targets New York State has set, that scientists say we need to hit to address climate change. We're all on the same team here. We all need to pull out all the stops. So appreciate those comments, and I'll leave it there. Thank you to the board.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, maybe we won't have to table it to the end. And hearing no further objections, I move that we close the public hearing for Tesla Motors special permit 2020-026.
Second.
Hearing no objection, public hearing is closed. We are going to do the resolution we wrote up. It'll be at the end of the meeting. I'm going to make the motion, since I don't know who is for and against. After I make a motion, if one of you who is for, you'll second it. Okay, so Rob will second it. Okay.
Were we going to give Mr. Mack?
He has some time to read.
Opportunity
As you
to-
know, when we do resolutions, there is some time for public comment. So there will be some additional
I thought
time
he
at
was
that
gonna
point.
take
So
it
if you want to take a look through that, so that if you have any comments when the motion comes up, that would be great.
Okay, and the edits that need. to
I also
happen?
sent it to Mr. Gore. So if you want to check your email in case you want to make any comments. As I put it, only fair to
Yes.
start with both sides.
I received it. Thank you.
You bet.
And the grammatical edits that need to happen will happen at that time?
Jenny did make the edit, and so, well, I'll just ask you, could you make sure that you catch the one that, when I was reading it, that had the, where I started to say either and then had decided to split it apart? Could you make sure that that's in there? Okay. Can I get my first resolution?
Is that me?
It's you.
That is
That's
you.
you.
Okay, hold one sec. Well, I should be able to read it right from here. Let's see here.
Yeah, it's technically our second resolution since we did the one honoring.
Just a second so I can pull it up.
No problem.
Supervisor Schultz and fellow board members, I have resolution 21-245-2020 to authorize bills payable for September 29th, 2020 through today.
Second.
So I'll open comments by saying, thank you, Rob, for the Herculean task. I understand it was almost double the number of receipts and invoices and stuff, including some for a whopping like $2.18.
It was big, but I got it done.
All right, thank you.
I'm glad it was your month.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor, fellow town board members, I have resolution 21-246, 2020 to transfer the historic properties at 3286 East Henrietta Road, the Good Shepherd Church, and 3306 East Henrietta Road, the Berger Farmhouse, from the Rush Henrietta Central School District to the town of Henrietta.
Seconded.
I'll open comments by saying I didn't catch that summary is missing an important word. It's to authorize, it's not to do the actual transfer, it's to negotiate the transfer.
Okay.
So the actual transfer would have to come back here for town board approval as well as a school board approval before it actually happens. But the point is, if you guys aren't on board with doing this, there's no reason to go through the time and expense, potential expense, I don't know if there will be, since our lawyer's on a flat fee, to go through the time and potential expense of going through all the negotiations and get the deal all created. So this, again, no transfer can occur from this authorization, just that you give me the authorization to put the deal together.
Do we need to amend the resolution?
No, it's not the resolution itself. If you read the resolution, the therefore is correct. It was just the summary was incorrect. So,
Okay.
so I will read the therefore clause. Therefore, be it resolved that the town board hereby authorizes the town supervisor to negotiate with the district for the town's acquisition for such parcels, subject to town board and attorney approval of a formal transfer agreement. So again, no transfer can occur from this. I can just put together the transfer agreement that you then vote on. And obviously before you vote on it, Don will make sure it's in proper legal form.
And Lisa, you want to second that?
I already did.
She already did.
You don't have to second it again since you read more stuff?
No, it's part of what was in the record. So
Mr.
if you remember what we're
Barley,
doing-
I second it.
There you go.
I'm glad you did.
We're only reading the summaries, but the actual whole resolution is in the record, so.
Very good.
I just wanted to make it clear, I wanted to read the therefore, just so everybody's clear that even though the resolution summary says to transfer, it's not an actual transfer. Any other discussion surrounding this? I know Mike has some concerns regarding parking and potential issues. You know, and again, I will work towards that to see if I can get them to give us some kind of agreement, even if it's a shorter term, we'll try to figure something out. Or if we can grow the parcel some to get some additional parking potential. But, you know, he has the thing we're up against is that the whole reason they acquired these parcels was to have the flexibility to do the other athletic fields and or parking and that type of stuff. So they are reticent to burden that with a shared parking agreement. With that said, they have agreed verbally to offer us shared parking whenever we need it, assuming it's not conflicting with something they're doing. So like they wouldn't want us to have a big event when there's a football game going on, for instance.
I know the board members had a chance to go over and look at the farmhouse months ago, and then we just recently went over to the church this week. Was wondering if anybody from the town went over, you know, any kind of inspector, because I'll be honest with you, you know, I looked at it and I saw some work that it may need, but I'm not an engineer by any means.
We did have some personnel go over from the town. We could potentially have additional as we start to look at it. You know, there's no question there's going to be some work needed.
Right.
The question is, it's not, I don't know that it's necessarily needed to get a certificate of occupancy. You know, one of the things as we look at, we're at some, there are certain areas that there's some leakage, especially in the basement. Again, my initial thoughts was we wouldn't use the basement initially. With that said, I would still want to seal up. It appears to be the dormers for those windows where the leak is occurring. So to prevent further damage, I would want to seal that up. But in terms of repairing the paint damage and the water damage in the basement, I wouldn't bother until such a time as we were looking to activate that space. I think the addition of the first floor space is more than enough initially. And again, if we start to see where that is being fully utilized and want to activate the lower level space, we'll have some water damage repairs to do. It's not, in other words, it's masonry, so it's not, there was no.
Not like there's a foundation problem there.
Right, there's no foundation problem, but you know, like you can see the water got behind the paint, so there's a huge section of the paint's all bubbled out and would have to be scraped off and repainted and stuff like that. And the floor itself is irreversibly stained. We would need to do something, put some kind of surface on the floor. But again, I wouldn't bother with those costs initially because I don't see any reason to utilize that space.
Well, yeah, I see this as a win-win for both the school district and for our town. We have a historic building that we can utilize, and I think the church needs a lot of work, but that's great too.
Right. I think, from the standpoint of the church, as we're talking about, I think it would make a phenomenal polling location. I don't know how Becky feels on that. But, as it's actually, and especially if we're going to have, one of the things that I know a lot of people realize, the Spanish flu is still around from 1918. It comes around every winter. We talk about the cold and flu season. I think going forward, it's going to be the cold, flu, and COVID season. Hopefully by then we'll have a vaccine. We already know that there are better antiviral treatments going on, so it will hopefully not be the death sentence, just like Spanish flu from 1918. Back then it was largely a death sentence. It isn't anymore. So with that said, it creates an issue often with the polling places, since election times are in the cold and flu season. I think from a logistics standpoint, the more that can be at town facilities, the easier it is logistically. And that location is a good centralized location, and it has a nice big space. And if we can make it fully handicap accessible, I think it would make a phenomenal polling location. So I think just that, now granted that's twice a year. But again, I think that is an additional added benefit beyond the use of the facilities from a recreational standpoint.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
Any other discussion? Any comments from the audience, including online? Hearing no further discussion, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolzner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz and fellow board members, I have resolution number 21-247, 2020, to accept seeker determination and issue negative declaration for Donahoe Management LLC for the 4799 West Henrietta Road redevelopment.
Second.
So, there was some question at the workshop with respect to, since the site isn't known exactly what's going to be in there, we do the seeker based on typical installation. They talked about that they were going to have an office building and a retail store and the 2 quick service restaurants. So seeker was based off of those. If their eventual use is the same impact or less, they're done. If their intended use has a higher impact than the typical that we did, we would reopen the seeker and they would need to update the seeker. So that clarifies, like I said, how that works when it's not known what the eventual tenants will be. Obviously the portion for Burger King is known.
Right.
So.
Very good.
Chris, Martin, did you have anything you'd like to add regarding this seeker?
No, Steve, I think you explained it pretty well. This is certainly a little unique, but by the same token, we've done this before or for similar plazas. So, no, I'm all set, Mr. Supervisor.
Thank you. Is there anybody from DDS or Donahoe Management who wishes to say anything with regards to seeker?
Nope, that sounds good.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, including from the public? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolzner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz and fellow board members, I have resolution 21-248, 2020, to approve special use permit application number 2020, 24, and 25 for a Burger King with a drive-through for outdoor seating.
Second. So again, same development. Looks pretty straightforward. I will tell you, since it's now already 9:30, it would have been nice if you guys were here in person and actually had some Burger King meals with you.
French fries would have been good.
Yeah, I agree. French fries would have been
French
great.
fries and a Coke would have been really nice.
But any comments?
No, apologize for not being there with the fries, but we've got a ways to go yet, so maybe we'll see you again.
Just the comment that the other one will not be built that was supposed to be on Lehigh.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys heard confirmation from Burger King Corporate as to whether the other application for a franchise on or store on Lehigh Station Road in Kenneth was withdrawn.
Yeah, it's my understanding that the franchisees have to go back to Burger King with their potential locations. And in this instance, that franchisee had not gotten approval from Burger King to actually go forward with that project. Where in our case, that franchisee has gotten approval from Burger King. And with this going forward, I do not believe that there would be any chance that another Burger King would be going in over there on Kenneth.
Right. I do know that the application itself is moving forward with just Taco Bell. So I would assume that, but I've not received any direct word from Burger King. But
so John, what kind of radius do they give to a Burger King franchise for another one to be in the area?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know Burger King's exact business model when it comes to that sort of thing. They did close the one that was further down West Henrietta Road. And I know that they were looking for another location. And when this popped up, it was very attractive to them. But unfortunately, I don't know that exact answer.
All right, thanks.
Rob, I suspect that in addition to distance, it also has to do with accessibility. So for instance, if they were close but on either side of the river and there was only a bridge far north or south, the linear, so some of it has to do with travel distance. And I suspect some of it's also like, right, where the population and the normal traffic flow. So I'll use Wegmans as an example, right? Even though they opened up the Calkins Road store, they didn't actually close down the Highland store, which a lot of people thought, because it serves a different portion of the community, even though they're not that physically distanced apart. For whatever reason, that area isn't traversed a whole lot. So, I suspect they look at a lot of factors.
Well, if I was a franchisee and I opened one up there, I wouldn't want one a mile away from me, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Steve or Don, do we want to put something in there just in case, so we're not in the middle of a battle? That this isn't contingent, that it's only that the other one is pulled, because we already approved the Lehigh.
Is it actually withdrawn?
Um,
Or expired or dispensed with otherwise?
It will be on the 1-year anniversary because they have not pulled a permit or done anything.
But we only did that about.
Yeah.
Do we have a problem with letting Burger King figure out if they want to build 2 Burger King?
Yeah, I guess my question is, what's the issue with that? That's more of an issue with the franchisees. I don't know that that's a town issue.
We don't
Actually,
want.
it would be more an issue with these folks because if you
Right.
think about where the other one wanted to go, it's right off the highway.
Right.
Yeah. Easy off, easy on, whereas this one you got to drive down a little bit.
I just don't want to see 2 built and 1 out of business and sitting empty.
Right.
In
Understood.
a year. That's my concern.
I'm sure neither
Neither did the franchisees.
neither did the
Right.
franchisees. Right. Any other comments, questions? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Fellow board members, I have resolution 21-249, 2020. Call for a public hearing for a proposed local law to allow the town board to set longer durations for large project building permits.
Second.
So again, this would just call for the public hearing, but the idea is, and this came about in discussions with the U of R Medical Center. They're roughly $275 million project. is going to take well more than 18 months to build. And right now, according to the law, they basically could get 18 months and a single 6 months extension, at which point they would have to reapply, which of course they have no interest in doing. So we took a look at, to me, the most expeditious way to deal with this is just to allow the town board to approve or deny a request for a longer duration for large projects only. It doesn't make sense for any of the other size projects. It really only makes sense for the large project ones. And again, we only get a couple of those a year. So even if it, worst case scenario, everybody was asking for it, it wouldn't be burdensome for the board.
That makes sense.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford.
Aye.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Fellow board members, I have resolution 21-250, 2020 to alter the length, the term lengths of members of the youth board and to provide a transition to those new term lengths.
Second.
So again, like we've done with other boards, there was a desire. Right now with a 2-year term, it means half your board turns over every year. And the student terms were actually 1 year. So we went with 3 years for adults, 2 years for students. And then they are also, it's not exactly in here from an ex officio standpoint. One of the things they're going to see is when a student's term expires, if they're still around in the summer, if they want to stay on as an ex officio member to mentor the new students coming in to their new terms. But because that's an ex officio member, it doesn't need approval, that, you know, because they're non-voting members. So
Steve, for the students, 2-year term, should it be up to 2-year term? Because what happens if you were a senior, you'd only obviously get 1 year.
any board members can resign prior to their term being complete, at which point you would appoint someone to complete that term.
Okay. Can I ask who wrote this resolution?
That would be me.
Why didn't you use term limits?
So it's not a term limit.
Okay.
There's no limit on the number of terms someone can serve.
Okay.
You could reapply, and people routinely reapply to boards, so.
Now I know why.
Yep. Any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford.
Aye.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor, fellow town board members, I have resolution 21-251, 2020 to update the not to exceed amount for professional appraisal services from GAR Associates LLC.
Seconded.
So again, in the hearing on this, we were essentially asked to provide 2 additional years. The fee came back $2,000. When it was first presented to me, I thought it was 2 different appraisals for different properties. And so I originally went to approve it, but when I got the quote from GAR Associates, I realized it was the same one for Barbary Cove that the town had previously approved. So we put this in to approve it. And as I mentioned yesterday, there's a chance that we might have to do some of the initial, the pre-trial preparations. And so they have an hourly rate for that. So I wanted to have some amount in there. That amount would not get us all the way through trial, but it would certainly get us to the start, because a lot of it, hopefully to the point where it's settled prior to going to trial. Any other comments? Any other questions? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford.
Aye.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz and fellow board members, I have resolution number 21-252, 2020
to authorize the supervisor to sign an amendment to the New York State Snow and Ice Agreement for the 2020-2021 snow season.
Second.
Any discussion, any questions? This one's pretty straightforward. Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolzner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I have Resolution 21-253, 2020, to declare an item surplus material from the Highway Department.
Second. So if you remember at our special meeting, we talked about that there were some that they were putting together to also go to the auction, and that we were going to do that at this resolution or at this meeting. This is the resolution to do that. Any other comments, questions? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford.
Aye.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolzner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Me and fellow board members. I have resolution 21-254, 2020 to authorize the placement of unpaid property cleanup charges on the 2021 combined town and county tax rolls.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford.
Aye.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolzner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Fellow board members, I have resolution 21-255, 2020 to authorize the supervisors to accept and sign the accounting quotes for Mingo, Mesner, Berry and Company LLP.
Second.
I'll note that should have been Bar. It's correct down in the resolution before. I guess I'm going to have to pay more attention to our summaries.
Oh, Bar.
Yep.
It's spelled several different ways too, because there's
Yeah,
one
bar
R down
and-
on the bottom and
Right.
then there's two Rs.
Yeah, it's Mengel, Metzger, and Bar
Okay.
with two R's. Yep. Again, one of the nice things is they kept the rates the same, and large part of that has to do with the preparation work by our finance team, by our town clerks, by our town court. Everything that they need to do the audit is there and available to them. It makes it very efficient for them, so they're able to get in and get out. So again, kudos to the team that makes that happen.
Very good.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford.
Aye.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolzner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor, fellow town board members, I have resolution 21-256, 2020 to make appropriate budget transfers and adjustments per the 2020 adopted budget.
Seconded.
Any discussions? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford.
Aye.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolzner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz and fellow board members, I have resolution number 21-257-2020 to hire personnel.
Second.
My comment is Linda wins the award for shortest resolution and
Thank
summary.
you, Linda.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford.
Aye.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolzner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Mike?
Yep. Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I have resolution 21-258, 2020 to adopt local law number 4 of 2020 to revert properties to their original zoning that were inadvertently rezoned as part of the 2019 comprehensive land use plan update.
Second. So we discussed this at the public hearing, unless someone has any further comment. Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolzner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Fellow board members, I have resolution 21-259, 2020 to adopt the 2021 fee schedules.
Second.
So I will note that the one I want to bring attention to is the large project surcharge. As was brought to our attention by the U of R Medical Center, our large project surcharge did not scale well for projects whose costs exceeded $100 million. They showed examples of other towns where they have a progressive reduction. And so we propose to put that in. So whereas normally the large project surcharge is at a rate of 0.008 times the project cost, that would still be the case for the first $100,000, or excuse me, $100 million of the project. For charges in excess of 100 million, but up to 200 million, the rate would drop to 0.006. And in excess of 200 million, they would drop to 0.004. So just to be clear, if I have the $275 million project, the first 100 million would be at 0.008, the second 100 million would be at 0.006, and the last 75 would be at 0.004. That saves them, it reduces their large project surcharge from 2.2 million down to 1.7 million. It's not quite at the 25 to 30% reduction that they were hoping for, but again, I didn't feel it was appropriate to do a change for one property. We needed to come up with a system that scaled well for everybody. And so I think this does it. And hopefully they're happy with it.
Sounds very fair.
I will note that it goes into effect January 1st. There is a chance that they will start their project before then, but the part of the project they're going to do, I don't think is in excess of $100 million. So it won't actually matter at that point, because they basically would only have to pay the part of the surcharge for that portion of the project that they're pulling the permit for. If it turns out that that portion is in excess of $100 million, then we would probably do another resolution just to implement this sooner rather than later.
Sounds good.
Okay?
Yep.
Steve, a lot of these large projects are done in phases. So is this the total project?
Yeah, it would be
Is
the
this-
total project.
Or, okay.
Now, when you say phases, it would be one of those that, it depends what you mean by phases. So if they do a portion now and they do another portion 10 years from now, the rules may have changed by then. But the point is, again, the way they're going to do this particular one, they're going to work on the Sears building first.
Right.
When the Sears building is done, they're going to then move on to the Sears wing. When the Sears wing is done, they're then going to move on to the tower. But they're all going to be successive, one right in a row. And the total duration of the entire permit includes that, all three portions. But basically, just like, again, when we do stuff for letters of credit and stuff like that, if they're doing that same phased development, the letter of credit cover the phase they're currently doing, and they have to then do it again for the next amount. So.
But they don't pay for all three phases until they start.
They typically, again, they pay for the portion of the building permit for the portion that they are doing. So again, going back to now, the developments, the neighborhood developments aren't a good example because they're different parcels, they're different permits. Each house is a separate charge. This is one big project. But the point being, let's say that the Sears building is 1/3 the cost, they would be paying 1/3 of and so again, that would be about $90 million. They would pay all the building fees for that portion of the project, and they would pay this large project surcharge on the first $90 million of the total project.
So
when they
answer
then
would
go
be
on to the
yes.
next one, they would pay whatever the next amount is. It doesn't require them to come up with all the money up front. Any other questions, comments, discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Oops, hold on a second. I just thought that there was a new.
So, listen, Don's in trouble. He didn't use the most updated version. Jenny's going and making some tweaks. And she will be sending that in just a minute. She's working on it.
Okay.
Let's read what we got here.
No, I just took what I thought was the most recent version on my email, but apparently there's been another version. So
There's been a few.
Just a few.
Did you send back any suggestions?
Did you want me to type it or do you want me to just?
Well,
I
either
have
way.
one sentence that I'd like you to consider adding.
Okay.
Do you want me to verbally tell you?
Actually, I prefer you send it back in an email because then I can just forward it.
Oh,
I've got,
well, right, he's gonna send you an email right now, Steve.
yeah, it's gonna come up during the discussion thing, the discussion portion as to whether we will amend them based on these.
Better talk quick or we'll all be asleep.
Right.
Got colder here. We're not going to sleep.
I'm looking at Rob and he looks like his eyes are closing over there.
Because you got all this small print.
Right. You can make it bigger.
That wouldn't be very fun.
Oh, and then I get made fun of by my kids. Can't you read that? No, I can't.
Got to put it in the over 40 font.
Make them bigger like this. Now they're bigger.
Has it been sent yet?
Finishing it.
Oh, I wasn't asking you. I need the initial one from the clerks.
Does the gentleman online from Tesla, does he have any change?
He already sent, and again, we're going to address that during the comment portion. I'm just trying to get the initial resolution because our town attorney made some changes to the wrong version. And they're trying to.
And Jenny's sending it. We're unsure if we understand exactly what you want fixed on your condition number 2. So we're sending it on to you so you can take a look at that.
Okay.
You wanted something changed on
It
condition?
just got sent.
All right.
Just got it.
So I have a feeling we're going to be, there's some motion, there'll be some requests to amend from others. So I figure we'll just amend, but we're just going to start with this.
Well, Steve, I would just say, typically we don't let the public move to amend our resolution.
No, they're not moving to amend. They are going to request that we amend. Somebody
Yeah.
here has to make a motion.
Okay.
We've had public comment where people say, can you know,
Okay.
so, but they can't make the motion.
Okay.
Someone
Just wanted to
here-
be clear. I wasn't
Yes,
sure what you were doing
no,
there.
no one's, it
Good.
would have to be a board member who motions it and somebody would have to second it. I'm just going to bring up their requests. Okay, so it seems to have grown.
Doesn't that always happen when I look at things?
So rather than read the summary, I'm actually going to read the whole resolution. We're going old school.
Yeah.
Okay. The fellow board members, I have resolution 21-260, 2020. Whereas Tesla has made application for approval of a special use permit in conjunction with its operations at 3300 West Henrietta Road, referred to as special permit or SP 2020-026. And whereas initially such application called for motor vehicle showroom sales and service facilities as permitted by the town code at section 295-15K upon issuance of a special permit. And whereas the town board indicated it was likely to deny the application should Tesla Motors not have a dealership license from the New York State Department of Motor Vehicles for this location, since automobile sales without such a license is and illegal activity. And whereas after a public hearing held on September 23rd, 2020 on the application, upon confirming that Tesla did not have a dealership license permitting sales at its Henrietta location, Tesla submitted a request to revise its application to remove its request for such use as a sales facility. And whereas since that initial hearing, Tesla Motors has updated special use permit application to be a vehicle and educational gallery where no sales activity would take place. And whereas Town Code Section 2073 prohibits the storing of unlicensed or unplated vehicles on any private property with the town of Henrietta, and since the location is not a sales showroom, it does not enjoy the normal dealership exception to the above prohibition. And whereas the town board was lied to by representatives of Tesla Motor about the lack of presence of unplated vehicles on the premises during the public hearing, which the board found disturbing, especially since a drive to the site after the meeting revealed approximately 6 vehicles without plates or registration. And whereas the town has received no direct response from the New York State Department of Motor Vehicles on whether the educational showroom is allowed without a dealership license, and the only communication received from New York State Department of Motor Vehicles appears to indicate they are aware of the activity and have no current issue with it. And whereas Tesla has further indicated that there will be no sales or financial transactions discussed or taken at the site, that unplated vehicles will not be located at the facility, and that loaner and demonstrative drive vehicles will be plated strictly in accordance with the New York State Department of Motor Vehicle guidance. Therefore, be it resolved that assessment of the special permit factors weigh in favor of approval for the application for all those reasons set forth in record, including, for example, that the proposed use is consistent with the surrounding area. Be it further resolved that the Henrietta Town Board approves the amended special use permit SP 2020-026 for Tesla Motors to update an automotive service center to include a vehicle and educational gallery in an industrial zone district with a mixed-use redevelopment area overlay zone, tax account number 161.11-1-7.2, or as more particularly described in file in the town clerk's office, subject to the following conditions. 1, no sales activity shall take place on the premises or in vehicles driven for educational purposes or in any manner by personnel working for or customers visiting the vehicle and educational gallery. Any instance of sales activity may result in the revocation of the special use permit and/or citations and fines. Should the applicant wish to engage in sales activity, it must apply for a new or amended special use permit requesting permission from the town for such use. 2, the vehicle and educational gallery use is not deemed to be illegal by the New York State Department of Motor Vehicles. If the use is determined to be illegal by the New York State Department of Motor Vehicles, this special use permit becomes null and void. 3, the educational showroom is not deemed to require licensure by the New York State Department of Motor Vehicles, except that if a license is required by the New York State Department of Motor Vehicles, Tesla Motors must file for a new license or begin the transfer of an existing license within 30 days of the ruling, and said license must be obtained or transferred within 6 months of the ruling. Failure to do so may result in the revocation of the special use permit and/or citations and fines. 4, no unplated vehicles will be stored on the premises. If unplated vehicles are found on the lot, code enforcement action may be taken, including but not limited to issuance of a notice of violation, potentially resulting in a fine or other actions as defined by Town Code Section 207-13. Repeated violations of this prohibition may result in the revocation of the special use permit. 5, the number of educational vehicles allowed on the lot at any one time will not exceed the number of parking spaces in excess of the number of customer and employee parking spaces as required by code. As of the granting of this application, that limit is 6 educational vehicles. If there are more than the allowed number of educational vehicles, a notice of violation may be issued. Repeated violations of this requirement may result in the revocation of the special use permit. Done.
Second.
Okay. Before I go to the feedback from Mr. Gore, and how do you pronounce your name?
McAreevy.
And Mr. McAreevy, any comments from the board?
I just want to thank the supervisor for spending a lot of time on this. You know, we had, and I'm not sure how everybody else is looking at this yet. We had a lot of concerns, obviously. We had a lot of feedback from both the Tesla owners and the dealers in Henrietta. So I just want to thank you for taking your time to get this document.
Yeah, I'd also like to have a special thank you for Jennifer for hurriedly making changes repeatedly, even during the course of the meeting, in order to put this resolution together.
I'd just like to say, I'm really glad that some of the concerns we have been mitigated. And I think both sides may not be totally happy, but I think it's workable.
Okay, I'm going to start with some of the feedback from Mr. Gore from Tesla. He would strongly prefer the board consider changing the wording about where it says, whereas the town board was lied to by representatives Tesla Motor. He basically says, one of our employees attending the meeting remotely by Zoom from downstate made a statement based on information that had been conveyed to her. It was incorrect, but that was unintentional.
Can I comment?
She said she was there.
Oh, you can absolutely make comments.
Yeah, she said to us, I was there a few days ago and every vehicle had license on it.
Well,
She
there's-
specifically said that.
Yeah, there's no way for us to know that when she was there, they were plated or unplated.
Right.
So I don't know.
Supervisor Schultz asked at one point, if we go there now, is there any unplated vehicles? The response was absolutely not. It wasn't until later on, when the issue was pressed, that she brought up that she was there a week ago.
Right.
And so,
Don?
I believe that's a
Oh,
true
sorry.
statement when it says.
Well,
I just want to ask a question. Does lying require intent?
I was going to say lying at least implies intent.
Okay.
And I would say instead of saying why, you might say provided inaccurate information or something like that.
Or could we say believes we were lied to if we wanted to use?
If you want to, sure.
I mean, I think there's a
Which
number of,
would you, right, so I'll leave that up to the board members, which way they want to go on that.
I
if
think
they
there's a
want to.
number of occasions where we have felt that we've been lied to and we haven't put it in a resolution. I don't think the word lied has to be in there.
Could
That's
we
my
use
feeling.
the word misled?
I'm fine with that. What do you think, Mike? I know this was the Mike whereas, because he was very upset about that.
Yes, it was, I mean, it was.
Right, to the point being though, like I said, since we cannot prove that there was intent, we either need to use a word that doesn't include intent or say we believe or allegedly or something along those lines.
Well, let's remember, there were several other people from Tesla on that conversation, and none of them spoke up and said, excuse me, yes, we do have unlicensed or unplated vehicles.
I think we have to be careful on what we say about the job we're doing here. And I don't think that word really needs to be used, to be quite honest.
Do you have a recommendation? Do you want to switch it to whereas the town board was misled?
We don't believe, well, misled was a good word. We don't believe that it was an honest characterization of what was going on, something of that nature, but misled might be a better word. But, you know, the person said she was there and she didn't see any unplated vehicles.
Right.
Mike saying that night, we asked them and they said there wouldn't be any there, but those people weren't on the lot that night. So it's kind of hard to.
Honestly, if I
But she
was
should
her, I
answer-
would have sent people over that night while we were in the board meeting. Get over there and make sure none of those are unlicensed.
Maybe she should have said when Supervisor Schultz asked her, if we send somebody over there now, is there any unplated vehicles on the lot? Maybe her response should have been,
I have no
I don't
idea."
know.
Right.
I don't know, but her response was absolutely not.
So how about we put in there misled? How do we feel
Misled
about
would
that?
be good.
Mhm. The town board was misled by representatives.
Are you okay with that?
I will go with misled.
Okay. So I will make the motion that we.
Oh, before you do that, how about we make all these
Oh, you wanna do
changes
them
at
all at
once?
once?
Because
Okay.
I actually have something I want to add too.
Okay, that's fine. Okay,
By the way, I'm marking it up
okay,
based
perfect.
on this.
Okay, so we'll make a motion for all the markups. Okay.
And
So
then
that was,
we're gonna see the copy.
Yeah, I'll send it out as soon as you guys say we're done.
the second thing he points out, and I will read this, there is, let me find it. He thought we might want to reference Part 78 when discussing sales activity. This is from New York State law that governs motor vehicles. So DMV, Part 78. Sales is defined as a sale occurs when a customer and a dealer sign a binding agreement to purchase and sell a vehicle, or when a customer signs an agreement to purchase a vehicle and the dealer acts upon the agreement, or when a customer delivers to the dealer money or other valuable property as a deposit or as payment in full for a vehicle. So, you know,
Is that from Tesla or the auto dealers, out of curiosity?
this is coming from Tesla. He's basically quoting, and I can send you the link, that it's coming straight from the DMV law.
So how about instead of citing DMV law, instead of reciting DMV law, we just.
No, I don't. I was just,
Yeah.
I wasn't saying that all goes in there.
Yeah.
I was just saying, you know, I'm just reading that. So he recommended that we consider citing New York Motor Vehicle Dealers and Transporters Regulations.
How about we just cite DMV regulations generally?
I'm fine with that.
Yeah. So do you want to revise paragraph 1 to read that no sales activity shall take place on the premises as according to DMV regulations, and just leave it at that?
I would be fine with that.
Okay.
I don't know if, Brad, do you have any comment on that?
I frankly, I don't know exactly what the language is in that right now, so I don't.
Well, my point is that, to our point, we're not going to try to quote the language. We're going to just say it's up to the DMV to define what is sales activity.
I'm fine with that.
Yep.
Okay.
This is exactly what, when we met the last time, both, and I'm sorry, I don't remember the woman that we spoke to, what her name was. Both her and the attorney kept saying over and over and over to us again. It almost felt like they were trying to defend that, yes, we can in fact talk about a car. We just, as long as we don't receive money or we don't sign paperwork, it's not a sale.
Right.
I would like to add that.
But, well, then I think we ought to say sale activity, because I suspect there's a section that also talks about sales away from premises.
Here's what I have now. I say in paragraph 1, no sales activity shall take place on the premises as according to the DMV regulations.
Okay.
How about everything we have there and then put "and" as per the DMV?
I think that makes it more ambiguous.
Well,
I think we need to be a little more concise and clear, because here's what happens. If we say no sales activity and then the DM, and then a group comes in and says, you know what, I heard that this employee said this to so-and-so, and that should be considered sales activity, and so on and so forth. That becomes a very difficult thing to enforce. Whereas here, if we say, per the DMV regulations, our sales activity is going to be defined by the DMV regulations, that really eliminates a lot of ambiguity. Not all of it, but a good portion of it.
So he noted that in number 3, I might have phrased that backwards. Don, if you could check.
Yeah, we fixed it.
You had already fixed it.
Yeah.
Okay.
what was changed in number 3?
It should have said not deemed. Originally it said deemed.
Okay. Oh, okay. So
Yeah,
mine is
it was
correct.
missing a word.
It's mine is correct.
So feedback on the misled. they're objecting to that characterization. I don't know if the only thing we could I guess we could say is if we wanted to soften it in any way, we could say misled, intentional or inadvertently, intentionally or inadvertently.
I'll add again that there was a lot of people on that.
Yeah.
On that.
I'm not saying we have to do that.
Nobody objected to what she was saying, and she
You could put that if you
she
want.
said
You could
absolutely
say
not.
provided
She didn't say
inaccurate
absolutely not,
information.
but I haven't been on the property in a week.
Right. I'm fine with that. I'm just, again, bringing up the objection. I'm not saying we have to listen to it.
Okay.
Okay, I think that covers all the ones I received from Mr. Gore. And now the one from,
Do you guys have a minute for a clerk's office edit? Number 3, it says educational showroom, but we tried to go through and make sure it consistently said vehicle and educational gallery.
okay,
Per the Tesla's language. I also, just as so you know, Mr. Gore does have his hand raised from Tesla if you would like to talk with him.
okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I should have unraised it. The issue was addressed. Thank you for taking my feedback.
You bet. So from Mr. McAreevy, for item number 5, is that the educational vehicles must be licensed and registered in accordance with New York State vehicle and traffic law.
Yeah, I'm having DMV look into the fact that they have a number of vehicles on the lot that are registered.
Can we have him come up to the microphone? We can't hear him.
I want to add that in because I'm having Department of Motor Vehicle look into whether the presence of 6 or 8 vehicles that are plated and registered in New Jersey and being used as educational vehicles in New York is permissible. And so if it's not, I want it known that they cannot use those vehicles. So they have to be licensed and registered in accordance with New York State's vehicle and traffic law.
I'm good with that. They did commit to working to move them to license them in New York, not in New Jersey. So, yep.
And if I could respond briefly, any vehicle plated in New Jersey is a service loaner.
Could you repeat that?
Sorry, I was just briefly going to say any vehicle that had a New Jersey plate and not a California manufacturer plate would have been a service loaner and would not be used for demonstration purposes.
So how about all vehicles on the premises shall be licensed in accordance with New York law?
That's perfect.
Supervisor?
As long as it's clear that it's the Tesla vehicles, we can't hold them accountable for what their customers do. Yeah, all company-owned
vehicles.
There you go. All company-owned vehicles on the premises must be licensed and registered in accordance with New York State vehicle and transportation laws. You don't know how these, avid club members are, they might be pulling something sneaky.
Okay.
Not to mention Councilman Councilman Stafford was on site. Who knows what his vehicles are like?
Well, we know they're not Teslas.
All right, and when we're done, I want to go through the changes to make sure everyone understands what we're
Any
doing.
other comments? Feedback?
I just want to make sure that
Yep, he's going to go
number
through them all.
one, that they can't be selling the car while they're driving around.
Right. Okay, go ahead, Don.
Just want to look at one more thing here.
So I'm going to have you read it as amended, and then I'm going to make a motion that we amend it accordingly.
Okay. I'll read the amendments. Right?
Yes.
Okay, so we, in the middle of page 1, we changed lied to misled. On the be it further resolved paragraph, this is something I'm suggesting that we change that we haven't talked about yet. I want to add in the specific use as classified in our town code because our town code doesn't say anything about vehicle and educational gallery. So I want to say that we're approving a motor vehicle showroom and service facility, which permits the educational gallery, okay, just so
Okay.
we're clear. So here's what it reads now. Be it further resolved that the Henrietta Town Board approves the amended special use permit for motor vehicle showroom and service facilities in order that Tesla Motors can update its automotive service center to include a vehicle and educational gallery. All the rest remains the same.
Okay.
Okay. Condition 1 now says, no sales activity as according to DMV regulations shall take place on the premises. That's the change there, and the rest remains.
Is
the
there any
same.
reason not to say or in vehicles driven for educational purposes? The point is he does.
Oh, yeah, we can do that. Yeah.
Okay.
When you just read what you said, and you said the rest remains the same, or the rest was going to get deleted?
The first sentence is what I said, and the rest of the sentences remain the same.
But I wanted to also say not just on the premises, but in the vehicles driven for educational purposes.
Okay, I'm gonna put that in, or in vehicles driven. Okay, no sales activity as according to DMV regulations shall take place on the premises or in vehicles driven for educational purposes, and the rest remains the same. The next sentence should say any instance, et cetera. I don't know if that's what you guys have.
Mhm.
All right.
Yep, correct.
3, we fixed to add the vehicle and educational gallery, since it didn't have that before. That's it. Everything else is the same there. 4, wanted to suggest that we add no unplated vehicles will be stored outdoors on the premises instead of stored on the premises.
Okay.
Okay. And then we added a number 6 that says all company-owned or controlled vehicles on the premises shall be licensed in accordance with New York law.
Sounds good.
And that's it. That's all I have.
Any other changes before I make my motion? I make a motion that we amend resolution, lost track of my number here, 21-260, 2020, as per recited by town attorney. Good enough.
Second.
Any further discussion on the amendments, the changes? Mr. Gore's objection to misled is noted, but I don't think we're going to change accordingly. I will note that misled also can be unintentional. It doesn't necessarily imply intentional. Any further discussions? Hearing none, please call the roll for the amendment. So we're not approving the special permit. We're just approving the modification to the resolution, which we would then vote on a subsequent roll call. Go ahead, Becky. Roll
Oh,
call.
I'm sorry. Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. So now we are voting on resolution 21-260, 2020 as amended. Any further discussion on this resolution to approve the special use permit?
I just hope that Tesla lives up to their bargain here. If Pat,
We'll make sure that their owners clubs keeps them honest, because they wouldn't want to see this go away.
Yeah, I know they, I know they were interested in having a level playing field. I think they should contact the Tesla to tell them to go to the dealership model and things like, and they could probably have a lot more all over the country.
Can I speak?
Sure. It's his fault.
As I mentioned in my email to the town, the club will be glad to work with the town on any of the issue that you find having problems. I mean, one of the things is that we are local right here. I mean, they are either California, New York, and there's some local staff, but most of the decision-making or a lot of things probably will be outside of Rochester. And I believe the club can be collaborate with the town of Henrietta to make sure that both our interests are being taken care of. And I've offered my cell phone number to Supervisor Schultz that said, call me anytime if issue. And likewise, I offered to the board members that if you have any issue, feel free to reach out to myself. And I'm sure that I can speak on behalf of the club members. We'll be here, and we are here to support the town for this endeavor. Thank you.
I want to thank you and your fellow members for that.
Say again?
I want to thank you and your fellow members for that concern.
Thank you very much. I think it's all for the good cause.
I think the dealership association probably feels the same way about having one of their dealers be the person to go to if any of them were ever awarded a dealer, if Tesla ever let them get a dealership.
We are here for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion?
No, sir.
Anything online? They've stuck through it.
We're voting on the motion to amend it, right?
No, we already voted on it. It's already amended. This is to approve or deny the special use permit.
All right.
If we vote aye, we will be approving the special use permit. If you vote nay, you will be denying it. And this is again as amended recently. Okay. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Congratulations, condolences. Okay. That concludes our resolutions. Considering the lateness of the evening, unless somebody has a very urgent report or announcement, I say we move to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.
Thank you. Hearing no objection, meeting adjourned.